Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Midweek Mix-Up Weekend Edition of one and only podcast for this week, actually, because, of course, we had network issues at the beginning of this week that spanned almost 4 days. So, hallelujah, seems to be running perfectly fine now. The stream has lost 0 frames, the kilobits are good, CPU usage is down, no more issues. Hallelujah. Let's hope it stays that way. But we are back again anyway, and this week we have a guest. Of course, you know him from our regular show. Pathieu joined us this week because he had some new technology to test out as well, and he wanted to be on a podcast. And of course, because the midweek wasn't there this week, we couldn't try it then. So he's here this week to talk about video games, talk about Forza Horizon, of course, which we didn't get a chance to speak about. But, of course, Pat's the best person to speak about that because he has 100% it. He's completely obliterated that game. So, and, of course, joined by my co-host, the General C, who's also had a little bit of good news as well after getting a rather sizable reimbursement for a subscription that he never used.
Yep. Yeah. I had a year subscription to Adobe Premiere and they never sent me a renewal email, and I managed to get 4 months reburst because of apparently I was still paying for it.
Yep.
So that's Jedi Survivor sorted.
Nice.
Hallelujah. But yes, we'll get into the intros. First and foremost, chaps, I'll start with Pathieu. How are you doing today, sir? What you been up to? What you been playing?
Oh, I'm doing good, guys. Happy to be here. And like I said before, I feel like a guest, but you know, it's so weird though. Normally, you guys do it together. But yeah, what I've been up to. I have some updates on my electronics. I got a new laptop, so I'm really happy with that. Was really looking forward to it. So yeah, we're gonna get some content out soon. I've been testing a little bit today. You also saw that Dutch. Been using StreamYard myself. Been testing out some OBS as well. But I'm waiting for a capture card so we can also stream, of course. So for now, we'll stay still with the Twitch app that we have on the Xbox, of course. And yeah, what I've been playing, of course, Forza Horizon 5 DLC, and been jumping on Call of Duty. Been grinding that for a while now, trying to get some platinum guns, completing challenges as well. So, yeah.
Awesome stuff. And the General C, welcome back, sir. Good to have you here. How you been and what you been up to?
Hello. Yeah, not too bad. Like you, my internet died for multiple days on end because we're on the same provider. I haven't really gamed much, but the only game I have played when I have had a chance to game is Jedi Fallen Order. I'm going through that again just in time for Survivor. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the second playthrough of that. I'm doing New Game Plus. I can't wait to get back to the hell after the podcast because it's such a good game. It's well worth a play. If you haven't played it and you are looking forward to the new game, get on Game Pass. It is in the EA Play section of Game Pass, and get playing that.
Yes, definitely.
Nice.
I can't wait for either, and we will be talking about Jedi today because, of course, the newest and final trailer for Jedi Survivor came out today, and it's like a story gameplay trailer, so it's a good mix of both, and it looks absolutely epic. It just looks like it's improved in every way that we could want it to, and in terms of a storytelling perspective, it seems like it's even turned up a notch. But we'll jump into that anyway. We'll jump into that. But before we do, oh yeah, what I've been playing. I haven't really. I've been hard at work with other than work during the week. Hard at work creating the Community Indie Showcase, of course, working with a whole bunch of creators, developers, people from the industry, getting the content together for that. And there is a lot of content together so far. We're still waiting on a few additions. As it stands, there is around 60 games. The aim is around 70-ish games for this showcase, and again, the same in September. So yes, there's already a few surprises lined up. Some really high-quality surprises lined up as well, actually, which is awesome. But lots of games in there, lots that you won't have known about. A lot of coming soons, a lot of in development, and some of them that are out now or have just released. So we'll have a good mixture of kind of available to play today, coming very shortly, and coming in the future, and even some that are early in development. So there's going to be a good mixture there. For people to kind of view and see. A lot of hidden gems that people won't have seen or have missed. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm enjoying putting it all together. But until then, I'm going to dive over to some awesome Forza gameplay, and we'll jump into some Forza discussion very briefly with Pat. So yes, I've got some. This is just the section, the recording that you see is the beginning section after the intro sequence. So it's all the first races and things like that. So enjoy the footage. I hope you enjoy that anyway. But Patch, as being probably one of the very first people to have played Forza Horizon Rally Adventure to completion, what's your thoughts on the DLC?
Again, great content what they bring us, of course, and what they also previously did with the Hot Wheels expansion. But yeah, I I really liked the idea of this rally. Like having that person next to you, or like saying to you what kind of directions you need to go, really gives you like that rally experience. It's a bit small, like I was expecting it was a little bit bigger, but I think they needed to check out what like what they can really do with this expansion and stuff. But so far I enjoyed it really much, especially when you jump in with other guys, of course, when we play the Forza Fridays. That same week we played with the guys, of course, and I think it's a really good expansion, but I was expecting a little bit more, a little bit bigger, but yeah, I enjoyed it definitely. Been grinding it since it came out, of course, during the podcast, but while we had the podcast, I was playing, of course, because I couldn't resist. And they got some really, like I would not say tough challenges in it, but some of them are like like pretty hard to get though.
Yeah, but, I've got to agree with you as well, Pat. I think it's a really good expansion, but it is pretty small. For someone who's only going to like play on it like for maybe half an hour at a time, you'll probably have it completed within the week if you're playing it daily. If you're only playing it like once every other day or something, then it'll satiate your kind of need for some rally for a little bit. But if like Patcha or like me, you can quite easily do a lot of the races, then you'll have it finished. Like Pat 100% it within the week. And I've finished all of the races and the championship races on it myself. Got all the roads, got all the smashables. So I've done all that. It's a case of if I want to get the achievement, I don't do like Pat and get all the achievements and do all like some ultra hard challenges and stuff like that. But the actual content, the basic content, it's maybe about, I would say maybe 5 hours at most of racing in there. Would you say that about Pat?
No.
About right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think so. Because the first day that it came out, I played for like 3 hours. Straight, and then after that, it took me like 2 more days playing maybe hour and a half
Yeah.
to complete all the races, of course, and then also you have the other challenges. So yeah, let's say about like I think I completed in maybe 6 hours, 7 hours in total.
Yeah.
Get all the achievements as well. So
Yeah. So I mean, what it is. It's a really awesome map. It's got some really awesome details to it. Some nice scenery. If like me, you've already unlocked all the rally cars because I love rally cars anyway. So I make sure I've got all of the rally cars and they're all fully kitted up. And of course, much like me, you liked the anti-lag turbo system that they've put in there for rally, etc. And that anti-lag really does help with like getting around corners and things quickly. And like as soon as you finish getting around a corner, you can put the foot down and it just goes straight away. So that helps a lot. And of course, if you've got some of the better rally cars, like I don't know, did you end up using the M Sport Fiesta? Because that is by far the best rally car in
the
the
one
game.
that you have right now,
Yeah,
the gameplay.
not this in the gameplay. The other one, the one that I used in the other gameplay.
No, I most of the time I was driving the Ford RS 200
Ah, right, okay.
because I already before they brought this out, I already made some other rally cars,
Yeah,
with off-road tires and stuff, and that was like one of my favorites. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It is, to be fair. It's I think it's between the Cosworth, the RS 200 or 2000, sorry, and the M Sport Fiesta as the best rally cars on the game. It's mainly because they're quite nimble, they're very quick, and they turn much better than a lot of the other rally cars. Like some of the heavier ones,
yeah,
like the Subarus and the Evos and things like that. They're pretty slow at turning, even when you're doing like rally races. So, yeah, the little more nimbler cars are definitely better.
yeah.
But yeah, what did you make of you mentioned some of the harder challenges? What's probably the hardest one that you've had to do?
Well, it also depends on what kind of level you're playing.
Yeah,
Like you can of course choose difficulty. Most of the time, I'm playing on pro or on unbeatable.
yeah,
I was actually trying to do this on beatable. Did the first few parts, but I think one of the challenges is like what you see right now during the gameplay is that you need to set a time between the checkpoints to see how far you come ahead of your opponent.
yeah,
If you have that on unbeatable level, it's pretty hard though because it's like I say it the seconds behind or the seconds that you are in front of your opponents are really small. So if you put your level down, it becomes more easier, of course.
yeah,
So yeah, that I think that's a thing that I like about Forza is you have that challenge. Also, if you're not playing against AI or so that yeah, I think that was one of the hardest challenges that there was, like winning every match on unbeatable or on pro.
yeah, yeah,
Because sometimes it's like it was like only um, like maybe 1 second in front of the one behind you,
yeah. Well, I mean, what did you think of the? Because I didn't think much of the one thing I felt a little bit let down as is I didn't feel like the showcases were that good, like your boss battles. I didn't think like they did anything.
No, that was yeah, that was like not really impressive. I was expecting
Yeah,
from that, especially from the bigger events that you have in the game, a little bit more.
yeah. Like in every other like expansion, the showcase events and things like that are usually the party piece, where they kind of do a little bit more to it and things like that. But it was just kind of just
Yeah,
a regular race, just against one person.
yeah.
It felt like they could do a lot more with that.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're always expecting you race against a train or an airplane or that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um, and now they didn't do this in this expansion, but you're right. They could do some more work on that.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, But yeah, overall, it's a good little expansion. Of course, if you've already got the expansion pass, or you bought the Ultimate Edition add-on, which was like 25, 30 or whatever it was when the game released on Game Pass, and of course you've already got kind of availability to play the game. I would say definitely play it, because it is a lot of fun, and I love rally races anyway, so I'm having fun just occasionally dropping on and rallying about. And of course, what it does provide, Pat mentioned before, is it's a whole nother area as well, where people can go on with the friends and do custom races again, and do some rally races against each as friends on competitions and things like that. So it's a whole nother area, it's a whole nother map, it's a whole new set of races for community days and things like that. So there are positives for it.
Yeah.
But I think the negatives from both of us there is it is a wee bit small. It doesn't take long to complete at all. Even from somebody that doesn't like, even if you jump on for like an hour or so a day on it, you'll have it completed within the week. So it's a little bit small. The map's good though. I think they could have, because I felt like I completed a lot of the actual regular rally ones, like the dirt races, very quickly. And then you have the night races, and then you have the road races. And I thought, well, if it's a rally expansion, I'd rather them just focus on more dirt tracks and less of like road tracks. But yeah, overall it's good. I think it's but I hope in future, for Forza Horizon 6, whenever that may be, the next expansions are a little bit more, a little bit bigger, a little bit more to them. I think this is probably one of the smallest expansions they've had. I felt Fortune Island was bigger in terms of the amount of content that you got in there. I think the Lego expansion was probably the biggest in terms of how much you could do in Lego. I think the Hot Wheels stuff, that was obviously quite significant. So I feel like after the Hot Wheels thing, they just did a much kind of smaller DLC on this front. So while it being cool, I just think it's not a big DLC. And certainly you wouldn't be missing too much if you didn't get into it, but it is fun. If you're like me and you love rally racing anyway, you're definitely going to enjoy it. But you're not massively missing out on it. Would that be fair to say, Pat?
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Like they like they did an amazing job on this, but for the amount of time that you needed to wait, because the first DLC was taking a long time.
Yeah.
The second one, they recently, not so long ago, they dropped the Hot Wheels expansion, of course. But after Hot Wheels, you should expect that they make a DLC that's a bit bigger, maybe a little bit more, like you said, also focused on the dirt racing, because I was surprised seeing road racing in it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. But yeah, maybe a few races were good, but there were quite a lot of races on road as well. So, but you're right on that. They should focus more on dirt if it's like a rally expansion.
Yeah. 100%. Before we move on to another topic, Pat, what would you like to see them explore? For instance, if hypothetically, they bring out another expansion before they move on to Forza 6. If they're going to bring out another expansion, what would you like to see them do next time?
Wow, that's difficult. That's difficult because you will say like maybe snow, but then you go back to like the Blizzard Mountain expansion what they had on was it 3, I think?
Yeah.
So no, I don't. So for snow, I'll say no. Damn. Yeah, that's a hard question though. I really.
A lot of people have mentioned like micro machines. Would you like to see them do that, where like instead of Hot Wheels, where you've got these off like wild tracks, do micro machines? So like you've got tracks So, for instance, you've got like this huge, what seems like a huge world, but actually within that world, you've got this tiny
really
little
small.
like map in that world, but it's all micro machines, and your car's really tiny, but everything looks huge.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that would be like that would be pretty cool if they do something like that.
yeah, so it's like, so if, for instance, like you're still on the big main map, and instead of like, I think another thing, and it does make absolute sense to me. Another thing that I would like for them to do on the next Forza, not this one because obviously it's done now, but on the next Forza Horizon, is instead of having to fast travel to the new locations when you get the DLC, you just drive down it. Like, it literally is just an add-on of the map, and you can just drive to the next section. And if you don't have the DLC, then you can't go past it. It's like the invisible wall thing, and you just can't access that area. But if you have the DLC, of course, you just drive straight in. You can go to the next area. You've the whole new roads open up, and etc. etc. I think it kind of takes away from it when, as you know, when you've saved yourself in one thing and then there's an event going on in regular Mexico map, then you've got to go back to the thing, and then you've got to fast travel to Mexico, and you've got to then you've got to start up. And if you want to do a race on the dirt one, you've got to fast travel back to Rally Adventure.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that, like you said, like fast travel and stuff. It's good that they have this, you know.
Yeah.
But I think having fast travel only on for, like, example, the first map, because it's bigger than like the rally expansion.
Yeah.
So for me, like fast travel on the rally expansion, of course I did that as well, but on a smaller map, they shouldn't do this. Like, not give the fast travel option, so that people just need to drive, because then people will play more, you know.
Yeah.
I think, but
definitely. And like I say, between the expansions, I'd rather the main map and the added maps that they create are all just one big map. So when they add an expansion and they add a new map, just connect the roads together and have that map just expand. Have the original map expand. So for instance, you've got the mountains in regular Mexico map. Just make like a tunnel that you can drive through, and that, like, when you come out of the other end of that tunnel, you're on the Rally Adventure.
Whole another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes...
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
You have to cross like a toll gate. Oh, you don't have the DLC.
Exactly. But that would be the perfect way to do it. It would be a case of, if you have the DLC, then of course you can go through that. You can just, it lets you through. But if you don't, it just like slows you down, and then says, and then just like respawns you like back on the road facing the original map.
The other way.
Yeah. Like, that makes sense. But it also means that the entire thing is one fluid map, and you're not like having to fast travel to the new maps every time. Especially when you're like we did. Like, every time I launched into play like Forza Fridays or anything like that, and I was driving with friends and stuff, like, I'd always accidentally auto spawn into Hot Wheels, and then I'd have to spawn into Mexico, and then I'd be able to do everything. I'm like, God, this is a pain in the arse. But
they need to make things like that more seamless.
Seamless, exactly. And like, as we know, the thing is because the Mexico map is that big, and the Mexico map is huge. It takes like 15-20 minutes to do a lap of the map if you're in just a regular car. Of course, if you're in a supercar and you're racing on the map, if you race quickly, then you can get round in like 10 minutes. But that's on a set race with no cars on the road and a certain track. But if you're just driving normally and you're not racing around the entire map, and you're just driving around the map properly, it takes you like 20 minutes to get around the entire thing on a big loop, which is quite a significant size in a car that does like an average of 110 miles an hour. So, but the little maps like this one, you'd be lucky if it takes you like 5 minutes to get around the entire thing, like driving normally. It's not...
Yeah, but I was really surprised on how long the tracks were on the races on the rally expansion.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I was like, okay, I'm almost there, and then I looked at how many percent I was, and I was like 60%. I was like, wait, and I've been driving for a while now, so, but that's also like positive thing that the races are not that small, you know.
Yeah. See, I was thinking that, and the felt relatively long when I was driving them, but then I would have a look at the time that I posted when I'd finished it, and they were like never longer than 3 minutes. They were like 3.5 minutes
Yeah.
or something. I was like, oh,
Max.
like it felt long, but it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
And the Goliath race was really straightforward as well. Like the Goliath race wasn't like great.
No, you had like the Goliath race was like 3 different services.
Yeah.
You had cross country, you had the road, and you had dirt. That's it.
Yep.
So yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a few things, and obviously we post feedback both privately and in forums and things like that to things. But I think the one major thing that I would take away from this is future Forza Horizons. I think that the map needs to be a bit more seamless. So when they add expansions, it's one big map that just expands. If you don't have the DLC or the DLC pack, then of course it'll just auto spawn you back onto the original map and say, of course, to access this area you need the DLC. But I think one seamless map that just expands over time when they add DLC is probably the better way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things they can do to it. There's a lot of things. And of course, whether or not they expand to do things like motocross as well. I think motocross would make sense. I don't think the likes of jet skis and planes and things, I think that takes it a little bit too far. I think motocross and rally is... motocross and road racing's fine, or motocross and motorbikes and road racing's fine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bikes to choose from, a lot of motocross bikes to choose from. I think adding planes and jet skis and things would be a bit off for this. I think keep it to the road racing, but add a few more bits and bobs to it. But yeah, overall, it's a good DLC, a cool map. It's going to be fun playing with friends, but nothing to worry about when it comes to whether or not you have to play it. I would say if you just want to play Forza every now and again, and you want to kind of have a new place to ride on, then pick it up. If you're not too fussed and you don't play Forza that often, there's no real reason for you to go out and get this. I think it's a fair summary.
I've not even played it yet.
As always, like Forza Horizon, it's very beautiful. It's a gorgeous thing to look at. It's optimized unbelievably well. It runs seamlessly. There's nothing wrong technically or visually. It is a beautiful map with beautiful cars and beautiful racing and everything in between. So there's nothing wrong there. It's just in terms of the amount of content that you get in the rally adventure, it's very small. So yes, unfortunately. Going on to another game that's coming up shortly, though. And Patcha, I hope you've seen the newest trailer as well. But
yeah.
Star Wars, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Of course, this game comes out on the 28th of this month, I think it is, or 24th. I can't remember which one.
I think it's the 28th.
Yeah, I think it's the 28th of this month. And today, of course, they released the final trailer before launch. And that game is looking pretty special. Jen, you've went back to play Fallen Order in the meantime. So how hyped are you for Jedi Survivor, and what do you think of the new trailer?
Considering I was someone that slept on Fallen Order and waited and didn't play it till last year.
Yeah.
Absolutely adored that game. It had one of the greatest Darth Vader scenes in it.
Yes.
Right towards the end of the game. Yeah, spoiler, but if you haven't played it yet, that's kind of on you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This trailer blew me away. I didn't expect to see Cal like on a speeder bike slinging someone into a TIE fighter.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait. It looks like we're going to visit a hell of a lot of planets in this one. Coruscant's one of them. So, and that's apparently going to be explorable, quite big sort of open world on there. So that'll be interesting to sort of wander around the underworld of Coruscant. It's a shame that we ain't getting that Star Wars 1313 game, but maybe we can live a little bit of that experience when we land on Coruscant in this game.
Yeah.
I'm hearing there's like a hub world that you can sort of build as well from some of the previews. You can sort of like put shops in like this hub world location.
Okay.
I think there's a hell of a lot of customization as well. You can actually change Cal's hairstyle.
Yes,
and facial
and
hair.
beard. Yeah, you can give him a beard.
Yeah.
Though it is ginger.
Hopefully the lightsaber customization's a bit more expansive as well, because it was kind of limited in the first game.
Yeah, I've seen the
it just seems
clothing
like
customization is very significant this time as well.
It seems like they've took a hell of a lot of fan feedback and dumped it into the game, and that's really all you could ask for, is listening to the fan feedback. And it looks like they've gone above and beyond to implement a lot of stuff that people wanted in the first game. So yeah, I can't wait for this. I wasn't gonna watch this trailer, but I saw a snippet of it on Twitter, and I was like, I need to watch this trailer right away. So I ended up loading it up in 4K and watching it. Damn, does it look good?
And to Iron Lords, I am on that now, so give me 2 moments. Yes, it looks awesome. Pat, whilst I'm doing this, what's your thoughts on the Jedi Survivor trailer that we've just saw there?
Yeah, it looks freaking good. It's I've played the one before, the Jedi Fallen Order, but yeah, this is the combat looks really good. I really like the trailer that they just posted. So yeah, man, it's definitely something to jump on.
Definitely. And to Iron Lords again in this chat before Pat continues, that should be saved now. So if you refresh it, you should be able to divert over. Thank you for that. I've never tried it before, so fingers crossed. But yeah, Pat, what's your overall and overriding thoughts on Fallen Order, and what did you want from Jedi Survivor?
Well, I haven't completed the game, so it's not that I know the whole story about it and stuff, but yeah, I'm just gonna see how it is. Maybe I'll jump back into the game before this comes out, so I get a more kind of experience in the game. But for so far, what I've seen, it looks really cool. So
yeah, definitely. I think my main takeaway from it as well, for me specifically, was that they've definitely went down the more cinematic route for this as well, with a lot of the kind of interactive cutscene sections. So I think what they've kind of looked at here is, and we have to say this because of course Sony are absolute kings of doing this, but you've got these certain set piece moments in the game, and of course you've got these awesome regular gameplay moments with all of the Sony's action titles. But the likes of God of War, etc., have these really awesome set-piece moments where you've kind of got a mixture between gameplay and cinematic at the same time. And it looks like Jedi Survivor's going down the route of providing those epic set-piece moments in there far more frequently. As you mentioned, Pat, in the trailer, you're kind of doing this kind of speeder moment where you're having a lightsaber battle with someone, and he's kind of clambering all over you, and you kind of just literally throw him into a passing TIE fighter. That obviously it's a set piece moment, but that's how the epic moments that you want from these games, where you kind of look at it and you go, "Holy shit, did that just happen? That was epic."
Yeah.
Is that kind of a lot of the things that you guys are looking forward to as well? Because that to me kind of expands on the story element of it as well. It provides those really epic kind of jump out moments.
Oh yeah, definitely. They do need to expand on the epic moments, and it obviously looks like they have. The first game had a few moments like that, but they weren't as big as sort of what they look like they're going for in this game. And obviously this game's going to be longer than the first one.
Yeah.
So you'd expect a lot more of those big sort of action set pieces and action cutscenes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not too button smashy though.
Where you need to press 10 times on your A or B.
Press X so much, like that one part in Resident Evil 5 where you're punching the boulder.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. By the looks of things, though, there's quite a lot there, and I think the story element, I'm intrigued by all of it, what you can do, where you can go. They mentioned Coruscant as well, because I know there was one kind of Star Wars fan website that was posting that you can kind of, it's a big open world that you can explore there, and they've kind of had to kind of correct it and say, listen, it's not a big open world. That's not what he was saying. It's actually more like it's a slightly, it's a kind of semi-open world, but it does have fast travel. It's got like community things there. It's got a lot to explore, but it's not open world per se.
Okay.
So no, but the thing is it's large enough to warrant them having to put fast travel abilities in there. So they've said, kind of, obviously, if this was just by itself, if this was strictly, if it was essentially Jedi Fallen Order without the fast travel, then the game would be about double the size in terms of how long it would take to complete. To kind of mitigate that and mitigate kind of how long it could take to complete this game without fast travel, they've added that in. So essentially, obviously, it makes it easier to traverse the maps and go from A to B, and for completionists, if you want to do extra content, etc., to make that quicker to complete, then that's what the fast travel's there for. So the first game was like 15, 20 hours completion. This one's sitting around 25 to 30 hours. And for full completion, the first game was 30 hours, and this one's going to be 35 to 40.
Okay.
So it's that's absolutely awesome. And Addict, thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. And hope you guys had an awesome show as well. As always, I'll be jumping in afterwards to watch the Iron Lords. And for anybody who doesn't already follow the Iron Lords, please, for the love of God, go and subscribe to them. I don't know how you could miss the Iron Lords. It's always hard going head-to-head with the Lords on a Sunday, but appreciate the love nonetheless. One of the many shows that kind of inspire us to what we do, so appreciate the love coming from you guys as always. But yes, I think on the Jedi Survivor front, Jen, if there's anything that you could wish to be in this game that you're kind of looking forward to, what is it that you would wish for them to have in Survivor?
Let me fight Darth Vader.
Yeah, actually fight him.
Let me actually fight Darth Vader.
Because they kind of teased it on the end of the last one.
Or let me fight Darth Maul. I'm sure Darth Maul's still alive in this timeline, like this part of the timeline. Yeah. So let me fight Darth Maul or Darth Vader, and I'll be good. That's pretty much all I can ask for.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the enemies and the kind of the especially the boss battles. Like we had the sisters and things like that last time, and they were absolutely awesome. But then, like you say, that kind of last reveal moment of Darth Vader, and we were like, holy shit, are we going to do this? And then it was like, nope, it's the end of the game. You're like, God damn it.
And he's just destroying everything around you as you're trying to relentlessly escape. It's such a good moment. Yeah. It's probably as good as the moment in the Rogue One movie where Darth Vader's like just on the ship. And you just see his lightsaber light up the entire area around him.
Yep.
A Darth Vader horror movie would be so cool.
It is. It
like Friday the 13th style.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, one thing this kind of intrigues me, seeing Jedi Survivor, is whether or not there would ever be a kind of a universe in which they would create a Sith version of the Jedi. So instead of doing Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, do a Sith version of that.
So they've got a TV series coming out, I think, next year. It's called The Acolyte, which is basically like a Sith apprentice.
Yes.
So I'd like to see them tackle the same sort of thing with Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, but with the Sith.
Yeah.
Even if it's like further back in the timeline, anything like that would be cool. Just something from the bad guys' perspective. Well, they're not really bad guys in their own eyes, are they? They think what they're doing is right.
Exactly. It's the same with any regular political kind of party that essentially they both believe they're right for their own ways, etc.
For the greater good.
For the greater good. The greater
The
good.
greater good.
I knew you were going to say that. Oh, dear me. But yeah, it's Jedi Survivor is looking like, and it's hard to say it's looking like the game we always wanted Jedi to be, but Jedi Fallen Order, if that hadn't have done what it did and performed as well as it did originally, then we'd never be in a position where we get Jedi Survivor. So it's hats off to Respawn for not only putting this game out and creating it, but essentially making EA go, okay, we have no excuse to not make Survivor. Like, the game performed really well. Everybody loved it. It reviewed really well. So go for it. Like, make another game.
So the thing is that a lot of games in a series of games don't change drastically between their sequels.
Yeah.
God of War and God of War Ragnarok. There wasn't really much difference in the games. As much as I absolutely love the story and absolutely love those games, at least Jedi Fallen Order feels like an evolution in the series and not just a continuation.
Yeah. Yeah, they really went out and out to add the things that people kind of add the things or change the things that people wanted changed in the next one. So when people were mentioning, okay, like, we love the lightsaber stuff, but we'd love to have more customizability, it looks like they've done that. When they've said we love the kind of ILP sent us, thank you, sir, much appreciated, hope you enjoy the show. When they mentioned about the clothing and the customizability on that, judging by what I've seen, they've added a boatload of customizability for the clothing items. And likewise, you've mentioned...
That was one of the pet peeves with the game. A lot of people were kind of disappointed that you were Poncho Man.
Poncho Man. Game. Mexican Jedi. That's what it was. It was like stereotypical Mexican Jedi. Like, what is going on here? Why am I wearing a poncho for the entire game? Let us wear a regular.
They should have given him a sombrero, ironically, as well. Just one that you can find in the game.
Oh,
just absolutely. Put it on.
Absolutely. And welcome to everybody who joined us from ILP. Giving... Hey, I know that trick. Addict definitely didn't say that. But appreciate you. Welcome everybody from the Iron Lords over to the show. I hope you enjoy what we do here. Of course, this is the Midweek Mix-Up podcast. This is our weekend edition. We always air the same time as the Lords, which is always a tough ask. But those guys are absolute gents. And of course, we hope you enjoy what we bring to the table as well. But we're currently discussing Jedi Survivor. What's everybody's thoughts in the chat as well about Jedi Survivor? How hyped are you for that game, and what is it that you'd like to see in that game that you didn't get in Fallen Order? For me specifically, like I say, it's the fact that they added a lot more customizability to Cal. I'm glad Cal is being kind of embraced by not only the community, but most definitely Disney and Star Wars as well from that aspect, because he's a really good character. His character arc is pretty much resemblance of any Jedi, although he finds his powers much later on down the line. Kind of a little bit more akin to Rey. People didn't really like Rey, I understand that in the films, but the kind of story is there where they don't really understand that they've got force powers, etc. And then later on, they learn gradually to kind of unlock those and increase those and make themselves more powerful. So the one question I really got here is how we begin Jedi Survivor and whether or not the powers, etc., that you have with Cal Kestis at the beginning of the game are kind of nerfed to the point where you kind of began the previous one. So if you kind of lose all your powers and you have to remember them again.
It's disappointing in a sequel where you unlock all these powers throughout the first game, and then the second game they're like, we're going to make you unlock them all again before you can get the new stuff.
Yeah.
I hope they don't do that.
That's the thing in it, but you have to have a good balance as well. Thank you. $2 super chat there by Gamer by Choice. He says, since ILP sent us, we need a 4-hour podcast. I know they set the precedent on long podcasts. If we had special Nick here like we did the other month, then no doubt we would have a 4-hour podcast.
or maybe
If
6.
this is a 2-hour
even.
podcast, just watch it twice.
But don't surprise us, actually. We usually go anywhere between 3 and 4 hours on the midweek show anyway. The weekend editions are usually smaller unless we have multiple guests on, in which case then we go on for a long time. But yeah, appreciate that super chat. We'll certainly do our best to entertain. But
so what you were saying about them, like
it's gonna be
possibly
a fine
taking
balance, I think.
or scaling powers back.
Yeah,
I think the best way they could do that is if the story starts, you encounter possibly some Sith, and then like that sort of bashes Cal's confidence, and then it sort of disconnects him from some of his false abilities that he has to then regain his confidence.
yeah. That's the thing. It has to be
it.
something to kind of justify what's happened to his powers. Whether or not there's kind of this off-screen moment against Darth in the first one, where he kind of lost some of that. We know there has been segments previously, like for instance, Luke. Even if you have a look at kind of the Last Jedi, was it that one, or was it the one before it where Luke kind of appears and he's like, no, I haven't done it for such a long time and blah, blah, blah. And then he has to kind of train himself kind of again and kind of get connected back to the Force. Whether or not there's something happens and he kind of has to relearn something, but it's a lot quicker to get your powers back at the beginning. Maybe it's like a quick segment to kind of relearn some of your Force powers, like an hour or so at the beginning of the game. Because you can't go into the game. Yeah, I was going to say you can't go into the game having lost every power, and then have to.
Yeah, because I think that would just piss people off and
start from scratch.
Cause some critical talking points, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. Like you said, Dutch, like give like a small intro from like an hour, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, just get your powers back that you had before, you know?
Yeah, like make it a story segment where he's like, something's happened and he's kind of lost his confidence or something. So when he's trying, his Force abilities aren't as strong. But then like make it just part of the kind of intro sequence there, even if it's the first hour, where you kind of regain those powers again very quickly. It's kind of like I say, it's a fine balance because you don't want to start the game being OP, because then the entire game will be like really easy to complete. But there's got to be like a fine balance between having the Force abilities and learning some new ones as well along the way, which we know they've added in. Shout out to David Hot right there for the $5 super chat. He says, ILP fam have podcast expectations. Yes, I know. We have big expectations to live up to time-wise. I know they go on for a long time. Depending on who they've got on, could go on for many hours, beyond 4. But yeah, it's. I mean, how do you think, Pat? Then they could handle that situation? Do you think it is a case of he's not bumped his head, but something along those lines where he's kind of lost his confidence and he has to relearn them, or how do you think they're gonna?
I think like you said, I think that's a good one. You know, like while you're starting the new story, and just in the meantime, you will be able to relearn some of the stuff that you had before, and not like starting the game OP and that you're like complete the game in like maybe 20 hours or something or less. I don't know. I think that's one of the things that you're right. You know, like give maybe some kind of flashbacks and that he relearns some of the stuff. You know.
Yeah. That's the one thing. I think
that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But aside from that, I think that's the only sticking point at the beginning of the game. I think everything else that they've done here, and it's rare. I say it's rare personally. It's rare that developers have taken on board every kind of bit of issue we had with the first one and seem to have corrected it. Now, no doubt we're going to find things that we don't like in this one. Or want kind of amended and things like that they could possibly do in the next one. But the one thing that we had as an issue in the first one was the traversal was great, but on the planets, And specifically, it felt like you went back and forth on the same planets a few times over. So it kind of, A, it felt a bit repetitive, but B, it felt like you were always in the same place, or you were going to the same places to do different tasks. So you were always back and forwards to the beginning of the level, etc. So what they've done in this one, of course, is to kind of mitigate some of the issues around going back and forwards to try and complete things or finish tasks, is add the ability to fast travel. I mentioned before, we loved the customizable lightsabers, but of course there's always room for more customizability, so they've added more. We didn't like the ponchos. So
Well, I didn't mind the ponchos. There was just too many of them.
I know, but the ponchos are great in cowboy settings, but as a Jedi.
Don't disrespect the poncho. I will fully commit to like buying a hell of a lot of ponchos and start wearing them on the podcast when I'm back on camera.
Oh god, yeah. The General Kestis. But yeah, but I want the one thing I wanted from a Jedi game was ideally to dress as a Jedi or dress as a Sith if that needs to be, like have the robes, have that ability to have the robes. Now, I've seen the customizability for it, and he's got loads of different bomber jackets and things like that, but I hope personally that they've added the ability to have Jedi robes and things in there if you want to wear them. Like overall, it's not really going to confuse with anything because it's just cosmetics. So I hope that
I'd imagine that would be sort of end game level content. Those types of Jedi robes.
Yeah.
But that's just my feeling on it. I'd probably be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Jedi robes, Sith robes, and you've got customizability there in kind of what color robes you want to wear, etc. You can do that with the sabers. Essentially, you can create what would be classed as a Sith saber if you really wanted to, and be red. Have they changed the blade style? So a bit like Kylo Ren's, obviously there's a reason why his is jagged. It's because obviously there's a kind of a conflict in the Force. So he's kind of both ways. So that's why it's untamed. That's why the saber itself is kind of all over the shop, and it's not like just a regular saber. Are they adding things like that to it as well? That kind of gives you that little bit of conflict, or can you choose that conflict for your blade? There's a lot that can do with it. And again, I think just going there, Pragmatic Eagle's right. Disney killed the movies due to that lady that they let run the direction of the films. Don't want to disrespect her, just her vision for the films. That's right. I think a lot of people are going to disagree on the films specifically. I think the visual aspect of the films was great. It was well done. The action sequences were good. But I understand and I agree on the story front that the stories could have been done a lot better on the films themselves. I think what I'd like about this Jedi universe that Respawn are creating is it's a whole new perspective. It's a whole new character. They can create their own story arc. It isn't going to conflict with things. They can add in lore characters like Darth Vader, like Darth Maul, depending on the time frame or time zone that they've got it in. So there's a lot for them to work with. In terms of gameplay perspective, though, they've added mountables. So that means, of course, you've got creatures you can go around the map and ride and or fly around in, or speeders and things like that. So there's obviously additional content there. I suppose it just begs the question, kind of, how much extra stuff have we got in this game? It's obviously a massive change over the first one, and the first one was brilliant. But this one,
there's 7 planets, right, in Jedi Survivor. If I'm correct, there's 7 planets. One of them is sort of sounds like it's going to be like a hub world that you can explore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I expect there to be a hell of a lot to do in this game. Maybe some stuff you unlock after completing the game.
Yeah.
As well. It's going to be interesting. Hard to say, but
was it 4 planets that they had in the previous one, and so they've added kind of an additional 3, but they've made them bigger?
I think there was 4 in total, because you had Dathomir, Bogano, which was the one you sort of mainly kept coming back. What was the other one? Kashyyyk, and I can't remember the last one.
Yeah, I think there was one specifically. It it was the installment, like the Sith installment, that I felt like you kind of went back and
it was
forwards.
the underwater Inquisitor Tower.
Yes.
I can't remember the actual name of the building they call it, but it's like the underwater place where all the Inquisitors sort of hang out between whatever they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's obviously the worlds on this look absolutely fantastic. The areas look far more explorable. There's so much more to this game, and honestly, I'm super hyped for it. And with new IPs, it's hard to get hyped for them because you haven't played a game before in the series to know what to expect. So my hype levels, for instance, for the likes of Redfall, etc., are kind of minimal anyway. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. And of course, we've got Redfall topic to come to because there's been a little bit of farce on the social medias about that as well. But yes, I'm looking forward to Redfall, but I've never played. There isn't a Redfall to compare it against, so I can't tell you whether or not it's good or bad or how hyped that can be because I haven't played the game yet. So whilst I'm looking forward to the game, I'm not going to get myself overly hyped. Whereas with Jedi, I've played Fallen Order. I adored Fallen Order. I wanted them to do more of it and expand on it, and that's what we're getting. So I am unbelievably hyped for this game. It's one of my top games to look forward to this year. What about you guys? Is this kind of exactly on your kind of paths as well? Is it one of the top ones you're looking forward to?
It's in my top 3 most anticipated games of this year.
Yeah. Pat, what about you?
If I be honest, yeah, I'm what I've seen right now, the trailer that they just dropped, you're get like more excited for that game than, like you said, for Redfall or so because you know the Jedi Fallen Order, so you know how the game works, how it is and stuff, and now they have a new thing coming, and it will be it will be huge. So same, I think the same. Yeah, I'm looking forward to play this.
Definitely. And before we get on to that Redfall topic, actually, shout out to Pragmatic Eagle for the $20 super chat. Much appreciated, sir. Of course, you don't have to super chat anything. We try to get through anything, but all the support actually is a massive help to us. So much appreciated for that. But he says, reference customization options from Jedi Academy for lightsabers. How old is that game? No Jedi customization has come close, in my opinion. Actually agree. Jedi Academy had a lot of customization. And again, I think there's a lot, to be honest, there's a lot of awesome Star Wars games in the works. I really hope that the KOTOR remake does KOTOR justice as well. Because if it does, and I know there's been issues with it, but if it does come out and it does well, the KOTOR remake will be another feather in the hat for Star Wars, as well as Jedi Survivor. Both of those games have been absolutely phenomenal, and the original KOTOR was brilliant. So hopefully they kind of expand on the customization for both of those games and kind of match the ability to kind of, as you mentioned there, at least match the customizability that you had in Jedi Academy. As you can see, I've got my own big old lightsaber back here. Super loud, but
use the Force, Dutch.
That's one of the big old expensive ones from Disney World. So yeah, it's huge fan of it. Again, I'm super looking forward to Jedi Survivor. At this point, it's not long away now. It's like just under 3 weeks until we can get a hold of it and play it. And I will.
Like 19 days, is it? I think.
Yes.
28.
Woo. So yeah, I'm going to be streaming that game for sure, the entire thing. Absolutely love it. Yeah,
or in one stream or?
Oh no, hell no. That'll be a 30-hour stream. The Iron Lords fans would be happy with that if I just did one 30-hour gameplay stream non-stop. Yeah, is that long enough? But no, it's I can't wait. It is definitely one of my most anticipated for this year. Believe it or not, in terms of Sony fronts, I didn't originally anticipate Spider-Man, but I enjoyed what I played as Spider-Man, so that's went up my list a little bit. It's not one of the most anticipated, but I'm looking forward to it for sure. Especially after watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse for the first time. Believe it or not, I'm not a huge Marvel fan for anybody watching, so I don't often watch them, but I thought, you know what it is, I'll actually give Into the Spider-Verse a chance the other day, and loved it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man film, bar none.
100% agree. Did you see the trailer for the new one?
Yes.
I can't wait for that.
It is by
That's
far
right
the
around
best
the corner
Spider-Man.
too.
It's got the best story. The characters, the way the characters go through it, the way he learns his abilities, everything like that. Like, everything on the Miles Morales front on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is brilliant. The story, the
It's
music,
got such
the
a
action.
unique animation style as well.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
It was so well done. By far the best Spider-Man film. By far. So I'm looking forward to that next as well. And having that Miles Morales perspective as well. They're going into Spider-Man 2, where there is Miles and Peter Parker. It's hopefully, I don't know how that story will work, but no doubt we'll learn more about it in the future, or at least going forward. Yeah, Jedi, back to that. Jedi's one of my most anticipated this year, alongside the likes of Starfield, and many others, actually. I've got loads of indies up there as well that I'm really looking forward to, but Jedi's definitely one of the bigger ones, and I'm still hoping deep down that that Hellblade comes out this year as well, because that's my ultimate most anticipated.
What's your guys' top 3 anticipated games of this year
So far,
that are announced officially for this year?
Well, now, because Hogwarts was one of them, but I've played that and I've 100% that game and obviously loved it, and that is up there with my game of the year list at the minute. So that one's gone now. So what is remaining for me? Jedi, Diablo, and Starfield are my 3 top most anticipated this year. Pat, what about you?
Pat?
Well, I hope that Hellblade, of course, comes out this year.
Yeah.
But I think it will. So that's gonna be my number 1 for sure. Then I'll go with, I think, Hogwarts Legacy, because I really like that game. I really enjoyed that. I still need to complete it though, but for what I've played so far, I think that's my number 2, and I think number 3 is going to be Star Wars.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mine are Jedi Survivor, Starfield, and Spider-Man 2. They're my 3 most anticipated games this year.
Yeah, it's a good show. Pragmatic Eagle in the chat.
That could change though.
Yeah, it could.
With June right around the corner, we can no longer really call it E3 season, can we?
Yeah, I'm still going to, till the end of time, I'm still going to call it E3 season. I don't care. We'll be touching on that as well, actually, because obviously we didn't manage to podcast last week due to network issues, so we will cover the E3 stuff. But yeah, chat as well. We've got Fifth Horseman. He says Diablo, Starfield, and Forza. Obviously, Forza Motorsport. Pragmatic Eagle says Diablo 4, Redfall, and Jedi Survivor are honorable mentions. But his mentions are Hogwarts, Starfield, and Wolong. So yes, those Wolong fans in the chat there. But of course, if you're watching this, what are your top 3 most anticipated remaining this year that you're excited to play? There's a few there, and I think Stuff Sean said Hellblade 2, Spider-Man, and Starfield. Yes, he's a big Spidey fan as well.
We'll have to revisit this question after the whole rest in peace E3 season.
Yeah, R.I.P. E3. Rip 3 season. Oh, dear
Rip
me.
3.
But yeah, can't wait. Whilst we're on the mention of Redfall, actually, we will cover that before we talk about E3. In typical IGN form, and again, this goes for any game. This isn't just Redfall, but in typical IGN form, they seem to employ or get people to do reviews or gameplay footage for their games that aren't good video game players, That's not to say they don't play video games. They're just not good video game players. If you the footage that we saw from Redfall, that we've seen in the past when they played Cuphead, that we've seen in the past when they've played God of War, when they've played any game that they've shown earlier gameplay footage of, it's always really poorly played. It's so stiff. Like this one specifically from Redfall was like watching someone try to play Call of Duty Online that's never played a shooter in their life, and like just like tweaking their viewpoint like ever so slightly every 2 seconds, and it's like really stiff, like left or right or up or down, and like the movements like really jagged as if they're not doing the viewing at the same time as the movement. Like they'll either look up and down.
So this reminds
or
me
they'll
of
move
when
back and
when I
forwards.
was younger, and I used to play Xbox games with one of my sister, and she had no idea how to play play Halo.
Yeah.
It's fucking hilarious, man.
Really bad.
It's
Like I say,
crazy.
it was as if the person was the inability.
So-
It was the inability. It was as if the person had like just used like the sticks, but then they would just use one and then forget the other one existed and then use the other one. Like it's you can use
honestly
both at the
feels
same
like
time.
they went into the sensitivity settings and made it even more clunkier.
Yeah, like you can use both at the same time. Like how can you possibly get through an entire like gameplay segment and it looked like you're just like you're either walking or you're looking, but you can't do two. Is exactly how that gameplay was. Like he was as if he was unable to look around whilst walking. He would step back like 2 steps and then he'd adjust his aim and then he'd take a shot. And then
No
he'd
way.
walk for it was like so jagged and jarring. I was like, Jesus, like this doesn't do if you played like that on any game, it doesn't do it any favours. It's gonna make it look like it's like really sluggish and stiff. And then you see other people
I
playing the
do
game
this
that are good.
often with so many different types of games, though.
Yeah. Like I say, these are the same people that couldn't get past the tutorial on Cuphead. Like this is you can't employ when you're a gaming magazine or a gaming site, or if you employ people to review or play games for your company, you need to make sure that they have some basic ability or slightly
play a
above
game.
basic ability to play games.
Yeah.
The absolute basics. Like you can't critique a game if you're not adept at playing video games. Like the
It's gotten to the point now where we have to like beta test people within the industry if they can actually play a game.
yeah, it's like and we know like loads of people that work for IGN. Like I know one on the PlayStation side, of course, and one Big Cloud Gaming is an IGN contributor now. And he's PlayStation side. He can play games. He platinums games for fun. I know he can play games. And I know Miles can play games, Miles Dompier, and he's on the Xbox side of things. Now, the difference is both them guys can play games, but it's very rarely do you ever see Miles Dompier or BitCloud Gaming get the opportunity to create the gameplay for any of these titles. If you had people that are adept like both of those, for both PlayStation and Xbox, doing the gameplay footage for them, you wouldn't have half of these issues because those guys can play video games.
Yeah.
But they don't. They don't. I don't know who it is that records this gameplay footage for them, but they need to stop letting those people play these games for this purpose. It's not to say they can't review games and things like that, but for this purpose, when you're showcasing a game for any platform, you need people that are actually are really good at playing games to showcase what that game is about.
Put in some action into it.
Yeah.
You know?
From what I saw from that IGN footage, it looked like they'd just scooped a random person up off the street and went, here's a controller, and that person doesn't even play games.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so jarringly bad. It was like he was taking a couple of steps backwards, a couple of steps forwards, and it was like like
That's weird,
up,
though.
down, up, left, move, right. It was like so robotic. I was like, what is going on? Like there was absolutely no game that this bad. Like and this is why I always kind of say for yourselves, like take all of this stuff as an absolute pinch of salt, because there's only one way with a video game that you know if it's good, and that's by playing it yourselves. And this same applied for Deathloop. The media guys absolutely Loved Deathloop. It was 10 out of 10 here, 10 out of 10 there, 10 out of 10 everywhere. Game of the year, one of the best games ever. And I was like, it seems a bit over the top. I'll judge it when I play it myself. Played it myself. It was okay. Was it game of the year? No. Was it 10 out of 10?
Honestly, I feel
Absolutely
like
not.
with this Redfall footage, it probably comes down to laziness. The person that went in to record the footage for this IGN first thing sat down, didn't even adjust their sensitivity settings. They probably just played it on the default settings, and that's why it looks like they had a struggle.
But even saying that though, if because obviously we would adjust our sensitivities, but as a normal person, even a normal person that watches that looks like somebody who's just picked up a controller.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just picked up a controller, doesn't really know how to play games. Is just like playing a game for like the first, like, it's like super casual. That's what it looks like. That's how it comes across, and that's like I say, that's for every game that they've done when they've shown this like first gameplay footage. It never looks. It never looks like someone that is capable of actually playing video games good does this footage. Like, they need to start giving like decent players the ability to get them their gameplay footage, because it's not doing any game
There's
justice.
so many people out there chomping at the bit for an opportunity like that, and they send someone that don't really look like they give a shit to even adjust their sensitivity settings. If you're within this industry and you're working for a company like IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, whatever gaming outlet it might be in the media, at least have the passion to do your job properly.
Yep.
You're there to showcase a game. Showcase the bloody game properly. Don't half-ass it because you're lazy and you're just like, yeah, I'll get in, I'll get the gameplay, I'll get out, I'll be back home in no time.
Yep.
Because that's what it comes across like. Like, they didn't have the effort to even get the settings dialed in like any gamer would do.
And but it always seems the case, and I don't get it. And before I get to Pragmatic's point, because he makes a good point there, shout out to Lord Metroid as well, who sent in a $2 super chat there, and the 3 most anticipated he's got for this year. It's a good spread as well, actually. He's got Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy 16, and Starfield, so he's got one on every platform. That's exactly how it should be. Good. Good. To be fair, I was the same kind of last year. I'm again, big kid, love Pokemon, so last time round I had Pokemon, obviously Scarlet and Violet, and loved that. Absolutely loved it. Obviously there was issues with it, but I blame that more on the hardware than the developers, and always have done, always will do. But yeah, for those looking forward to Zelda, absolutely. I'm going to. I hope they've made, and again from what I've seen, they've made not the repair function, but they've made the durability on the weapons a bit better, which is a good thing. It's more likely that I'll pick up the game now if the durability on the weapons is better. Last time it was just a pain in the arse, which kind of put us off the game. But I actually need to pick up Metroid Prime Remastered, because that is phenomenal. Even though it's more of a remake than a remaster, because it's that significant of a jump. Can't wait to play that. But yeah, and on the, like I say, on the PlayStation front, for me, it's not Final Fantasy for a change. It's probably Spidey is my most anticipated, unless something else kind of crops up soon, and we know there's going to be a showcase at some point soon from Sony. So let's see what else.
I bloody hope so. I need to see what Sony are working on.
Yeah, same. But yeah, back to the main topic anyway. Pragmatic says they've employees that are great when they're away from IGN, but when they work for IGN, it's hella cringy. Yeah, there is a few of them there. When they're by themselves, they seem to be a little bit more themselves and kind of willing to kind of say the truth, etc. And as soon as they go to IGN, it's kind of like they've got a restriction on them to kind of be weird. But also, it's like, here's an FPS review. Hey, it's FPS. Perfect. You write a review. It seems to be, you know what, I've noticed that a few times. where people they've got a lot of reviewers these days, and when you're working for a company like IGN or GameSpot or Windows Central or anything like that, Windows Central specifically actually are good at this, is they usually give games to review to people that are good at or like those kind of games. Whereas IGN and GameSpot and things like that, some of the larger media outlets, the super large ones, tend to just give those games to anybody. So like people who haven't played an RTS game before, they'll give them an RTS and they'll be like, they'll give it a super low rate and they'll be like, oh, it's so clunky and it's this and that and I didn't quite get the instructions, I didn't know how to do this and I didn't do this and it was really bad at this. It was like, have you ever played an RTS before in your life? Like, to be able to like do this, and they've never played RTSs. They say that in their reviews, or they don't play them often. It's like, if I wanted somebody's, especially if you're an RTS player, if you want someone to have a real opinion on how good an RTS is, you want somebody that's adept at playing real-time strategy games. So you can go to them and say, okay, so how good is this strategy game compared to kind of Age of Empires or compared to kind of Civilization, or what kind of RTS is this? Like how in-depth it is. Is like RTS light, or is it kind of a super heavy, like in-depth RTS? But you don't get that in... They always put like a guy that's really cool, like a really good guy at playing first-person shooters, playing an RTS game. A guy that loves playing RTS games, doing a simulator. A guy that loves racing games, playing an FPS. You're like, what is going on? Like, make sure that whoever's reviewing this game, you're getting the right person to review the right kind of games. You need someone that's adept at these things to be able to give them a comparison. But they don't do that. And again, it's the same with the gameplay footage. Like, they just give people that aren't adept at certain games the ability to go out and create the footage or get gameplay or do a review for a certain game that they're not good at. And it doesn't make sense to me. To get the best overall kind of idea for any game, you need the right people reviewing it that are adept in that particular genre. Is there anything else you guys want to add to that?
No, you pretty much nailed it on the head.
Yeah. You know, like when Hogwarts Legacy came out, in the first few days, they also streamed a little bit of content on their channel, and I think one of those moments was also that they were letting someone play that probably never played a game.
I actually remember that. And they were just like just doing the same thing, and they weren't doing any other. You know, like the combat's really boring. There isn't many things to do. The combinations aren't great, and like you're only using like 2 spells. Like, what are you doing?
yeah, exactly. You know, and that's and like people also said in the chat, like, you know, for example, Life Supremacy said also, like, you know, like it's boring to watch those kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if someone is not like into gaming or doesn't know what the game is about. So, but basically, like you said, you know, like they need some people that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, to make the games look as good as they can look. So essentially, it's like everyone's like, oh yeah, but a game should look good regardless who's playing it. Well, no, that's the point. Like, games don't always look good if someone really shit's playing it.
That don't make sense. Any game is going to look bad if you put it in the hands of someone that doesn't know how to play it.
Yeah. It's going to look terrible. Like, I actually remember now, Pat. It's I'm glad you brought that up, because they did have someone playing Hogwarts that was really shit. They were just doing like 2 spells, and they were like, "Oh, the combos aren't that great, and you can't really do much with the spells, and it's not that intense." And then you're seeing these random people on YouTube like juggling people in the air and then throwing them and then catching them and then doing something else, and then like Avada Kedavra, and then all that stuff, like 55 different spells and things like that, and then like made it look really entertaining, made the combat look really fascinating and like really in depth.
Yeah.
And then you had IGN and they do like 2 spells and they say the combat's crap. Like,
you get a lot of people within the industry that have that I don't give a shit attitude when it comes to playing something that they're reviewing. And those types of people shouldn't be reviewing games.
Absolutely.
No. Yeah, exactly.
It's not even just that. They just need to become more adept. If there's a certain type of game that they love to play, Whether it be like you love to play The Sims, okay, then you have a look at sim games where like you maybe doing farming or doing like actually The Sims or something like that. If that's your forte and that's what you're really good at and you love that kind of stuff, then that's the kind of content we'll kind of try to focus you on. If you love RTS games and kind of strategy games as a whole, we'll kind of let you kind of look at that avenue. If you love kind of MMOs and stuff like that, like Jez, Windows Central said on many occasions he'd love to just be able to cover World of Warcraft and kind of those kind of MMOs and stuff full time. Obviously he can't because he's got a lot of other things to do, but that's the kind of thing, if you're ahead of that and you have the ability to know what your staffers are really good at, I wouldn't go out my way to say, oh, Pat, today I need you to review Dark Souls. All right. You'd be like, what? I've never played that before. Like, okay, I'll try. But you're not going to be like the best at Dark Souls because you've never played it before and you're probably going to die a lot.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And that'd be exactly the same as me going to Jen. Or Jen, I'm going to give you Forza Horizon to review, by the way. So, have
I'll be like, what? Car game?
I hate cars. What are you talking about? Tough. You're doing it. But that's the thing, like, from my perspective, if I'm going to get someone reviewing a game or creating gameplay footage, and of course, the larger we get when we start to review games a little bit more often that are outside of indies and things like that. For those of you watching from the Iron Lords, of course, you understand when you get to the kind of Iron Lord size, etc., that's when you get to kind of do previews of much larger games and stuff all the time, and that's obviously awesome. So when we get to that size, I'd much rather have the people that are part of our organisation doing reviews on games that A, they're excited for, and B, they know they're kind of good at playing. I'm not going to, of course, all the staff are going to be able to play that, but
if someone on your team specializes in playing a first-person shooter, that's the person you get on a review for something.
I'll have Pat playing that all day long because he plays FPSs all day. FPSs, third-person shooters, first-person shooters. He loves that stuff. So I'd be like, if I want a review on a first-person shooter, I'd give it to Pat and say, okay, we need a breakdown of how it feels, what the gunplay is like, what the sounds are like, the quality, the performance, stuff like that. And then, of course, side note, story, third note, content. And if there's any MTX in it, I want to kind of give the ability to kind of let us know how egregious that MTX is. And Pat would be able to do that because he played PUBG for years. He's went off PUBG because of the way that they've done the MTX and the content that it's provided there. So it's sidestepped. It's back at Modern Warfare now. He knows how that works and all of the stuff that comes along with that. Again, with yourself, there's a deluge of kind of, like, again, single-player games that you love to play, the action-adventure-y stuff, the Spider-Mans and the God of Wars and all that stuff, and you love that kind of stuff. So I'd have no problem giving that to yourself and saying, I know you're going to do a good job because you're really going to take notice of the story elements behind it. But there's absolutely no way that I'd be comfortable giving any of you guys, and again from this front, because I know you guys wouldn't be comfortable, from a reviewing standpoint, if I asked any of you to review a game that you'd never played before in your life, like a game type, if I was like, okay, like, Jen, I'm going to give you Flight Sim to review, have fun. You're going to be like, don't even know where to start.
Playing game? What?
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't do that to enemy staff. It doesn't make any
immediately.
sense.
I don't know how to play that game.
Not only does that not
I'll
make
be
sense...
sitting there for about 3 hours figuring out how to take off.
But not only does that not make sense from my perspective, given you guys games that you can't or have never played, but also from the viewer's perspective, watching that footage, it's going to be really awkward and look pretty crap. Like the game, like the person doesn't know what they're doing, and that's because the person doesn't know.
That'd be the majority of my footage if I had to review Microsoft Flight Sim. It'd be just me figuring out how to take off.
Yeah.
There'd be no gameplay of me flying. It'd just be all in the cockpit pressing buttons.
but then still the content will be better than
IGN.
having a person that never played a game before. You know? So
yeah. It's just you've got to know your audience, and you've obviously especially when you're like them, you're getting the game either previewed or you're getting it for free to review. You've got to have an unbiased way to it, and this is one of the reasons I love reviewers like ACG, for instance, who will never review a game that he isn't intending on buying himself. So every game he reviews, he buys it himself, and he won't recommend a game that he wouldn't buy. He tells you at the end, of course, he's buy, rent, or wait for a sale, or never pick up. So, and he's very blunt about it. And of course, he says that about all games. Like, the only way you can be truly, completely unbiased about it, especially if you're a reviewer, is if it's games that you're going to purchase yourself. If it's a game that you've been given, then you're going to be biased. There's going to be a marginal bias about it. If I'm given a game that I haven't bought myself, then I'm going to be just happy that I've been given something for free. So I'm going to have a slight level of bias about it because I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, I've got this game, I didn't pay for it, so I'm going to, like, enjoy it. And I haven't lost anything because I didn't buy it. So, of course, there's going to be a level of bias around it. If you're buying a game and reviewing it, on the other hand, or even if you've been given a code and you buy it, you say, okay, well, we've bought it. We did get a review code, but from a consumer perspective of someone who's paid for this game, you have more of a duty to tell the truth about that game than you do if you haven't, because it's your hard-earned money and you know whether or not that game has been worth the money you've invested in it. And I think that's a little bit more truthful, which is what ACG does. The games he reviews, he buys, and he makes sure of that. So he's kind of make sure his bias on the game is where it should be. So, and to be fair, the only games that we've reviewed I've bought, or if I haven't bought it for myself and I've reviewed it, like the indie games I have, what we have done is bought like 5 copies or 6 copies of that indie game and give it away to the community. So I have personally purchased it and know that it's good enough to give out. I wouldn't give away a game that's terrible. That's for sure. But yeah, it's and again, the one thing I hope the majority of the community does anyway is always make up their own mind and doesn't let an IGN or any reviewer for that matter completely cement an idea of whether or not to get a game without playing it themselves. So even though I trust ACG's thoughts on everything and me and him align perfectly, which is why I kind of referenced himself, we were like align, I would say 95% of the time, on our thoughts about games. So I know that if I go into one of his reviews and I watch his content, the chances are I will agree with what he's saying. Is that going to make me, even if he dislikes a game, is that going to make me not pick up a game? No, because I'd still want to experience it myself in case I have a differing opinion when I've played it myself, personally. It's a bit like watching a film. You can watch a segment of it. Somebody else hasn't watched it and like, nah, I don't like John Wick because it's just that actiony type of stuff. So like, it's not for me. I'm like, well, have you watched it though? No, but it's not my cup of tea. But you haven't watched it, so how do you know it's good or isn't good or you don't like it unless you've watched it? You could go
the
into
only
it
movie
thinking,
I'd say
it's
don't watch if you haven't watched it is Morbius because it was terrible.
Yeah. But still, even saying that though, like, people are going to warn you, but truly, like, some people, and I'm sadistic like that as well, if someone tells me, oh, Morbius is absolutely terrible, I'm like, is it that bad though? And like, it makes you want to watch it to see if it's just as bad as people say.
I actually would like to hear your opinion on that. Maybe you should watch it and then like give a little bit of a review on the next weekend edition.
I might do that. I might see. I'm not again for people in chat.
I'll watch Uncharted because I haven't seen Uncharted because I've heard that's bad.
See, I didn't dislike Uncharted. It's an easy to watch film, right? I completely understand for people who are like massively into the lore of the game Uncharted that they might be wound up, but I'm not. So watching Uncharted was kind of like watching a up-to-date, non-Indiana Jones version of Indiana Jones. That's what Uncharted is. It's just another Tomb Raider. It's just another indie. It's one of those games, but like relatively short, an easy watch. It's not great. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either. It's just okay. It's a good watch. It's a really easy one to stick on in the background. It wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad. It's definitely not as bad as people made out. I can understand people's thing on Morbius, and that wasn't just you. That was everybody said that was a terrible thing, and I might do it just for sinister gains and put myself through
Morbius might be the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life, and it might be the hardest movie to top, to be honest, being the worst movie.
See, the problem I've
'Cause
got,
it was-
like, and
it was
I'll say this bluntly as well. The problem I've got is I'm a huge horror fan, so, and the only reason this is applicable to this sentence is I watch a lot of horrors that aren't even like regular movies. They're like B movies, B flicks all the time, and I'm talking like ones with super low budgets that have been made by like 4 people. Like, I watch a lot of crap, so my lower, like, my bar for being terrible is like really low, which means that anything above that bar gets better and better every time. So Morbius will probably be like slightly below average when I watch it. I'll be like, oh, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it wasn't the worst thing I've seen. But I can understand for people that like don't watch a lot of B films like me that watching Morbius might have been a pain. But yeah, it's certainly fun. But yeah, admittedly, I would say admittedly though, I was saying admittedly as well actually, and then I seen Pragmatic's comment there. Admittedly though, the villain and his motivation in Morbius was trash. So there's that. There's a lot of the times where the villain in the film has a really, really like just obvious motivation. It's like, oh, you killed my family, so now I need to kill everybody. Like, what this again? Okay. So we're going to go through that route again. We've been through this every time.
It's not just the poorly written story; it's the poorly acted characters.
But
Jared Leto.
again, Jared Leto
Jesus.
was terrible in. I thought he was terrible with Suicide Squad. I thought he was absolutely horrific.
Jared Leto is terrible in every movie he's in. I've not seen a single Jared Leto movie where I've gone, that was good.
But there's certain actors like that, isn't there? There's certain actors where you just go, he's just not that good. It was unfortunate.
He's also one of them like actors that got a major ego complex and like commits to being in the role even when they're not filming. He's such a dick.
Yeah. Yep. I know a lot of method actors, but a lot of them don't take it out on their staff. But apparently he can be. But anyway, that aside, back on the story of Redfall again. This goes for any game, not just Redfall. Please, game sites, game articles, anyone you're getting to do your gameplay footage, please get people that are adept at playing video games to do your footage. It's just the bare minimum that I ask. The bare minimum. It's the only way we're going to get a true representation of how that game looks before we actually get to play it and feel it ourselves. Of course, outside of those who get the chance to review it, who know how it feels and know how it plays, if you're going to be recording footage, have someone that's adept at playing these games to record that footage. Someone that's preferably adept at certain types of games to play certain types of games. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. And ultimately, bottom line, always make sure that the final decision on whether or not you pick up that game is down to yourself, or you've played it, or you've tried. If you have the ability to try it, and again, this is where the likes of Game Pass comes in handy. You don't have to buy it up front. I bought Forza Horizon. I bought Halo Infinite, so I know the pain of buying something and it not being what I asked for. I bought the gears, all the gears. I bought all of the Forza Horizons. I bought all the Forza Motorsports. I bought the Hellblades. So when I'm buying games, Redfall isn't one I'm going to be buying up front because it's not. I am looking forward to it, but I'm not sure whether or not I want to have it. Once I've played it, if I really like it, then I will buy it and I'll buy the deluxe edition expansion, etc. But that ultimately I'll be able to try that game on Game Pass. If I like it, then I'll buy it. If I don't, then no sweat. On PlayStation, it's even more difficult because the chances are indie games will go into PS Plus on day one. You're not going to get them in PS Plus for AAA games. So if you do a game dirty on PlayStation and they release really poor gameplay footage for that, that's going to ultimately potentially affect sales because people will look at it and go, that doesn't look great, I'm going to wait. And usually those people wait for a sale. And when you're waiting for a sale, it's either from you're going to pick it up second hand, which means that the company's not going to get that profit anyway because it's second hand, or you're going to get it on sale, which means they're not getting a profit anyway because the game's on sale. So ultimately, it does damage to the company because one person couldn't upload decent gameplay footage. So always make sure you make that final decision yourself based on having played the game. If you're lending it off somebody, if you're unsure about the game, then wait. But I would say then, kind of, you know what it is? This is the kind of anti-argument against pre-orders, specifically for new IPs. For new IPs, it's really hard to justify risking your money these days. It really is. Unless you know, like Jedi, for instance, we've played the previous one, so we know what to expect. So we're kind of comfortable on pre-ordering that. Or you've played a Bethesda game, you know what Fallout's like, you know what Skyrim's like. So Starfield is kind of along the same lines. We can kind of expect bugs, of course. Hopefully nowhere near as bad as a regular Bethesda game. So you kind of know what to expect when you pre-order that. You know what to do with a Forza. You know what with a God of War. But when you're creating a new thing, a new game, for instance, when Ghost of Tsushima came out, imagine if somebody played Ghost of Tsushima and they were absolutely shit at combat and they put a gameplay footage out where they just couldn't hit anything with a barn door, and you use that as the gameplay footage to entice people to buy the game. It would do damage. And you can't have that in games media. You need people that are adept at games to do this gameplay footage. That goes for any platform, any of them. We shouldn't have to say this in modern day, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
On to the next one. E3 is dead. And I think this time, ladies and gents, it is permanently dead. I do not see a method in which E3 can return now. I think the damage is done. I think, unfortunately, no matter what they do, unless they massively reduce the overheads in which that third parties pay to be at the event, which is one of the major sticking points, they are really going to struggle to get this back. Then you have other more successful events like PAX, like Gamescom. Gamescom, for instance, has in kind of an overall head count of people going through there of almost 500,000. The maximum amount of people that went to E3 in person was 65,000. Maximum. That tells you the difference. It was always a media event. It got changed into a digital event and an in-person event for everybody. And the footfall for the amount that developers pay to be there isn't justifiable. And it's a damn shame that it's come to an end. Of course, moments after it was announced that it was completely cancelled again, Jeff Keighley jumped on that thing like there was no tomorrow. He was like, "Yeah, but don't worry, because my show's on." Yes, it is.
Savage.
Yeah.
He was coming in with a pile of dirt to bury E3.
Oh, he was. He was ready there with a spade. He was ready with a spade. He was like, "Say it, say it." But chaps,
It's like the epitome of a too soon joke.
it is. It was like he was literally just throwing the dirt on top of it straight afterwards. But it is, you know, it is. For me, it is sad because we've like a lot of us, we grew up with E3. We grew up with the awesome moments like the God of War reveal, like Flute Man. Like that was only more recent times as well. But then you've got to go back to like the likes of Halo's unveiling, and you've got like the Gears of War unveiling for the first time. And you think about all of these unbelievable moments that have kind of come from E3 and the unveiling of different consoles and things like that. And then you've had a look at more recent years where instead of unveiling a console at E3, Microsoft chose to unveil their console at the Game Awards show. Sony chose to unveil their console on their own State of Play stream. And in previous years, both of those consoles would have been shown off and unveiled for the first time at E3. You'd always see the new console in June. It was always the thing.
No.
And then they changed it. And then they all started leaving one by one. and you don't get those same moments. You don't get like you'd stay up, you watch the Sony stream, and then you'd be like, that was awesome. Like they've just shown off the new God of War, and they had this massive orchestra, and it was such an epic moment. Like, how can Xbox possibly like top that? Like, they've got the work cut out to top that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Or vice versa. Like Xbox would have a really good showcase and be loads of awesome games, and be like, right, okay, so what's Sony got? And then you'd have them like back to back. You'd have like Xbox, and then like 2 hours later there'd be the Sony conference. You'd like stay up all night, and then after that you'd have maybe the Nintendo one, or you'd have the PC Gamer one.
Be up till like 4 a.m. watching all
like
the events.
All week you'd had conferences like pretty much back to back every day, and it would just be one of those weeks where it was just purely focused on the games and announcing new games and showcasing awesome stuff and new technology and stuff like that. And then it's gone. Like, it doesn't have the same feeling. Like, we went back like to 2 years ago where the Summer Game Fest first happened, and it was like so spread out. Like, all of us remember that. Like, we had the Xbox show, and then they were like, oh, part 2 of the Xbox show is like 2 months away. And then we've got the Sony show 2 weeks away. And then they're like, okay, part 2 of the Sony show is like 2 weeks away. You're like, what the is going on? Like, why is everything so far apart? And then like every person was like a week after another instead of all in the same area. And it just felt so disjointed. So I think it's not specifically just the E3 thing that we're going to miss. It's the overall structure of what E3 originally provided in the showcase period that I think people are going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that Jeff has to do, in my opinion, is to try and get that structure back with the developers, where you can go to the developers and say, okay, what I would like to do is try and get the showcase period within a week. So like, even if Sony's at the beginning of the week and Microsoft's at the back end of the week, or Microsoft's at the beginning and Sony's at the end, whatever it is, can you guys all fit within like a week and a half of each other, and we'll get all of the developers and all of the publishers to work within like a week and a half's time frame, so they've got something to kind of aim for. There is no, like, as Pragmatic said in the chat there, they're not competing with each other. So that kind of removes the need to bring their A game, and that is the thing. Like, at E3, it was a competition. It might not have kind of seemed that way to them, but even to us, it was always a competition. Who's had the best showcase? And that doesn't even just mean Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. That could also mean EA, Ubisoft, Sega, Capcom, like Devolver Digital, whoever it is that turns up. Who's had the best showcase? Who showed us the best games? And who's had like the best unveilings? There is no competition there now. That's what E3 kind of originally brought. It was like that competition between the platforms to kind of woe us and convince us to get their stuff. And now they're that far apart. It's not really, like, you're not kind of competing against anyone else. You're kind of just your own thing. And like 2 months later, they've got their own thing. It's not the same. It's really odd. What's your kind of overall thoughts on it, Pat? I want to go to you first.
Well, it's sad to see that it goes how it goes, because E3 was like one of the biggest events where like gamers come together from around the world. But it's sad to see that's gone, of course.
Yeah.
But also what Lord Metroid says in the chat, like they try to do it now on a more cheaper way and to go online, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm always, because when they announced that the E3 was canceled, my first thought was like, has the Activision Blizzard something to do with this also? Because that's going on for a while now. And since they agreed on it, the Japanese company, that after they said, okay, we accept it and stuff.
Yeah.
Soon after they said E3 is canceled. So my thoughts are like, does this whole thing with Activision has something to do with the cancellation of E3?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more of a cheaper way to present games and consoles and that kind of stuff.
No, definitely. I mean, what's your overall thoughts on E3 being cancelled? What kind of memories do you have on it that kind of Do you see it as an overall bad thing, or does it not affect you as much? Or
Like I'm used to see the showcases now online, so it,
yeah,
it really doesn't affect me. But one thing I'm gonna miss is that when E3 was coming up, we always be in a party with several people, and we are all watching at the same time, and like discussing it also while we are in the party. So
yeah,
that's the thing that I'm gonna miss, because I cannot go all the way to LA and go there, but it's yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm gonna miss. It's But still you can like do this with the online events that are coming up.
yeah.
You can still go into a party, but like with E3, it was such bigger thing to watch all together, So
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree.
yeah,
That's the thing as well. I think it's more because it was over the course of a week. Like every day we'd have a new event. Like every day, if not two events to watch, two or three like
no,
main events to watch every day over the course of E3 for like a week straight. And even between that, you used to have like the YouTube guys. And they'd have like commentators that would speak to developers like after the shows and they'd be like, "Oh, did you like what you saw with our game? Like, here's a little bit more of it," and they'll discuss it a little bit more. And then they'd discuss. It would be as pragmatic again said in there. It was like kind of the Super Bowl moment, and it was the kind of Super Bowl moment where you have the big game, or like you would in football or anything like that. You'd have the big game, and you'd have people discussing it beforehand and be like, "Oh, what do you think the outcome's going to be? Who do you think's going to score? Who do you think's going to do this? Who's going to be player of the match?" The same applied for this. It was like a big sporting event, but for games, it was like, who do you think's going to have the best game reveal? Who's going to have the best
no,
show? Like, what did we make of this? Did they perform well? Like, it was kind of like that moment, and that's gone now. There is zero competition because Microsoft do their own thing, Nintendo are doing their own thing, Sony are doing their own thing. Like, there's zero like fighting between each other, and like it's good sportsmanship to have that kind of competitiveness, in my opinion, and that's the thing I think we lack these days in the showcases. There is no competitiveness to be or produce the best showcase.
no. Yeah, that's true.
Jem,
And also
Go on.
what you're gonna have right now is that the amount of time what's between the events, like you have the Xbox event, like you said before, and then 2 weeks later or maybe longer, you have the PlayStation event or Nintendo event.
Yeah,
So then you need to then you need to think about, okay, what did Xbox already showed us? Because I a little bit forgot about that.
yeah,
And with E3 you had like everything in just a week.
yeah, and everything was fresh in the memory, so you could go, "Oh, no, the PlayStation one was definitely better." Like, look at the production value they put behind it and everything like that, and like.
No,
And then it was gone. And that's obviously Jeff's trying to do his best with the Game Awards, for instance, and he gets the orchestra in and the bands, and he gets like the live singers from Metal Hellsinger, or he'll get Hosier in to do the cover of Blood and Snow from God of War, and that's awesome. But you used to get that at the conferences. Like Sony used to do that themselves with the live orchestras and things like that at their event. So Sony were really good at doing that, and Microsoft tried to up the ante as well. And of course, they didn't have those kind of things, but they did occasionally. And we always used to laugh. Everyone remembers, and everyone used to laugh at when Ubisoft used to come on the stage, and you would always get that cringy, like 5 minute dance section at the beginning where they're all playing Just Dance on the stage, and you're like, oh.
That is something I did not need to remember today.
But everybody remembers that, and it's the cringe. It's part of the overall silliness and like event that was E3. There would always be that moment where as soon as Ubisoft come on, you'd be like, "Oh, here we go, here we go." You're ready to cringe for 5-10 minutes straight, and then we'll get into the games. And they'd go through Just Dance at the beginning of every segment.
See, with me, it became a thing where I'd skip the Ubisoft conference, and then I'd go through and just look at the highlights because the cringe was just too much.
Oh dear me! But it was just the overall event to me. It meant a lot to us because it was a gamers Super Bowl. It was those who really loved. For those who don't love sports, it was their moment for that week They were like book the week off and just like watch all the events and talk about it with their friends and jump into party chats and like get super hyped about it.
Yeah, it was like Christmas for gamer geeks.
It was like Christmas. It really was. And it's like, and then you could kind of sit there and like write down your most anticipated that like was shown after the show, and you'd be like, okay, well, like these are my most anticipated from Sony's, and this is from Xbox, and this developer's shown this, and I really like that. But God, yeah, it's that's what I kind of miss about it. It's a miss that element, and I even like I mentioned the other day, I even went back and kind of watched previous reactions to showcases that we've done as well, and that was so fun. And I miss that. Like that's the kind of stuff. Yes, we're gonna do like live reactions to the showcases this year, but it doesn't have the same feel because you don't have that competitiveness. Like even like
Exactly.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, we were doing like showcase reactions where it was like one day it was Xbox, the next day it was Sony, and we had like 2 back-to-back things, and the next day we had Ubisoft, and the next day we had this. So we had like back-to-back conferences that we were all doing live streams to, and we were having fun with. Now it's like, as you mentioned, it's weeks apart. Like now, at least I know right now, on June 11th I've got Xbox followed by Starfield, and then on June 12th I've got Ubisoft. So I've got 3 conferences back-to-back in June.
I'll skip the Ubisoft one.
Outside of that, we have no idea when EA is, Capcom, Sega. We don't know when Sony is. We don't know when Nintendo is going to be doing theirs. We don't know what Take-Two Interactive are going to do. We don't know anything about any other showcase. So, it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. Jen, what's your overall thoughts on the whole E3 thing coming to a should we say an expected end?
Honestly, I sort of saw this coming.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I mentioned it on a previous episode of the Weekend Edition, or maybe even the main Midweek Mix-Up show, that I fully expected this to happen. I honestly thought they were going to get their one last hurrah moment, though, before that would be cancelled. And it seems like it's indefinitely and it's not going to come back. But yeah, I sort of saw this coming years ago. Nintendo backed out of it, and that was a chip away from the competition side of things. And then same happened with Sony, and well, this year it was basically said that none of the big 3 were going to be there.
Well, the thing with Sony as well, though,
that was pretty much a nail on the head.
You could kind of see Sony. You could kind of see that they were preparing to leave, because they were at the showcase. They did the massive God of War 1, and the year after that, 2019, they did their event in a little tent. And it was so awkward. Like, they had these big gaps. Remember, everybody remember that? They had these massive... That was Flute Man time, by the way. They had these huge gaps in between getting the entire audience from one tent to another tent. And then they had to have these little breaks in between where, like, IGN and stuff was covering them. And they're like, and we'll be right back with the second part of the showcase when... And then you'd see the entire crowd be moved over to another one. I was like, this is so awkward. Like, I understand this works.
It became expensive though. Like, not only is it already expensive that they have to like pay a shed load of money pretty much to get into E3, they've also got to put all that money into their entire conference that day. The structure around it,
but even then,
the set designs, if they're doing elaborate stuff like they've done in the past.
I was going to say, but even then,
playing
Jen,
an orchestra,
like that stuff,
it's a big expense.
Like the elaborate stuff that they did on that Flute Man show, that works when you're there in person. But from a digital perspective, it definitely doesn't work. And that's what was a nail in the coffin for Sony, because they were just like this kind of event works when you're in person, and it's like an all interactive, and you're getting going like this mystical, wonderful place, and you're going from one viewing area to the next, and it's cool and stuff like that. That works in person, but digitally, having these huge gaps between moving an entire crowd from one room to another room doesn't work at all. And Sony probably just looked at it and thought, you know what it is, we can do this event, but we don't need to be here.
I think a lot of it also come down to with Sony the fact that Microsoft owns their own conference center. So
So Microsoft, it wasn't even an expense for
Microsoft have
them.
already saved themselves a bunch of money there because they ain't got to pay an entrance fee to set up in a massive conference hall or whatever you would call it. And that's probably one of the reasons why Sony started to back away, because it became expensive for them to put on a show, not just pay to be in there, but to also build all the sets around it and hire the people to do the music and stuff. That becomes expensive to do all that elaborate stuff. And it's no surprise Sony backed out and went the digital conference direction. It's the same for Nintendo. They backed out.
Yep.
And then this year, none of the big three were going to be there, and
the thing is with Nintendo,
EA wasn't going to be there.
Like Nintendo,
Ubisoft were going to be there, but pulled out last minute, pretty much.
I was going to say Nintendo though. Nintendo have been really weird. They've for years, and this was even when Sony, because Sony people obviously they pulled out and made everyone aware they were pulling out, but Nintendo haven't really been part of it physically for a long time. Like way before Sony, they've been doing their Treehouse Live events for years. Where they were doing it digitally and they wouldn't actually be there physically. It was like a pre-recorded show where they'd stand up on this like uber white stage and talk about their games and things and do it digitally. So they were never really there.
It becomes cheaper though, because like if Nintendo were to go, they've got to basically travel from Japan all the way to America, set up the conference, obviously pay to enter the E3 conference thing, or the entire E3 thing. I don't even know. I can't even remember the name of the company that actually runs E3, but everyone pretty much has to pay it, apart from Microsoft, because they've got their own convention center.
Yep. So
it's no wonder they just took a back seat and went, we'll do this at home in Japan and we'll do it all digital. It's cheaper.
Oh, absolutely. It's far. That's the thing as well. Like they can do it themselves digitally and or in person at the same time. Like this is what they do with like Microsoft have done it with XO for years now, where they can stream an event and have it live at the same time. So when you're there in person, everything gets unveiled. You can be there as a fan event. So if it's in your city at that time, they'll stream it directly to everywhere around the world, and everybody sees everybody on stage whilst games are being unveiled. If you're at one of the XO events, like I was in 2019, then you see that same conference with the same people on stage in person, and it works exactly the same way. And that's what Microsoft have done, and Microsoft can do easily because again they've got their own conference center, and they can do that anywhere around the world. One of the E3 sticking points, I think, has been the fact that it's always been based in LA and it doesn't change its location. I think if E3 changed its location, it would have a good chance of being successful.
So I think if this isn't the final nail in the coffin for E3 and it does come back in a year or two's time when they figure out that whole thing again, they need to go and do it in different locations. They can't just say it to sunny LA where a lot of people don't really want to walk around a sweaty convention center with a bunch of sweaty gamers. Not only that stink.
But even if you have a think about it from a consumer perspective, for me to get to LA and watch the conference live for like a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, it would cost me the best part of about $3,500 for a week.
Yep, that's E3 for you. It's expensive for everyone, unless there's people that live nearby.
And that's just to go to E3. If I was doing the same for Gamescom, it would cost me about $500 for hotels and flights and travel, and then of course a little bit of spending money for food, etc. On the flip side, even on internationally, people on the other side of America who also want to go to E3 are still paying the best part of $1,000 to $3,000 to pay for accommodation because it gets really expensive around that time, to pay for flights because again America's like the size of the entirety of Europe, so they still have the same issues at the other end of America, but they've always just kept it in one area, which means it's really hard to access for a lot of people, which means the footfall on that event is always stayed really low. So financially, it's not justifiable for anyone to be there. If you're only getting 65,000 people there throughout the entirety of E3, That's not enough to warrant paying millions of pounds to have something there. It's still enough to warrant going to Gamescom, because Gamescom is like almost 500,000 people going through across the couple of days that Gamescom's on. That's a lot of people to see your game. Not 60,000.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between 60,000 people and 500,000 people viewing your stuff. When you get 500,000 people looking at your stuff, you go, that's a lot of eyes on. That's a lot of social media inputs. A lot of people sharing stuff from that event. That's a lot of people going to view the game. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But when you haven't got that many people going through the event, and it's really hard to access, whereas Gamescom is like Germany, it's in Cologne in Germany, it's bang in the middle of Europe, it's really cheap to get there from anywhere in Europe. It's also it's probably cheaper to get there than it would be to get to E3 from people internationally. So, from a financial perspective, for the consumer who wants to go, the likes of PAX and the likes of Gamescom are more cost effective for their wallets to go and experience a big gaming event than it is to go to E3, which is overpriced. That's one of their biggest drawbacks, and one that they can't get around.
I think there's only really one way back for E3 now, and that's if they partner with Jeff Keighley, and I honestly don't see that happening. So I think E3 is done for pretty much.
Yeah. And what do you think Jeff Keighley's got in from then, Pat? What would you like to see Jeff do to capitalize on this? Because he's started already. You were one of the first to kind of point out his jibes essentially at E3 straight after they announced it. What would you like to see Jeff do to make his show actually be successful going forwards?
Oh man, he can do a lot, I think, but like doing some specific, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question though. I didn't think about that. Like, what can he do to make it like
To make it
go crazy? You know?
To make it go crazy.
He already did something crazy and just dropped a savage tweet after E3 got canceled. So he's already starting big, though. You know. But yeah, you know, like if with like event wise, yeah, what can he do?
Yeah. For me personally, it's uniting everybody again. I think that's one of the hardest things to do. But if anybody can unite all of the companies to come together for a certain time frame, as much as I don't particularly like Jeff myself, you can never debate the pull that he has got with the gaming companies. He's got a lot of contacts in a lot of places. He's got a lot of friends at every one of these companies, and every one of them wants to work with Jeff. And he knows all the biggest names. He knows all the biggest.
He's got his best friend Kojima.
He's got his Bezzy. Yeah, he's Bezzy Kojima.
Yep. Jeff Stranded.
If anybody's going to get the best out of the community, out of the game developers, Jeff's the one that'll be able to pull it together. Very well connected.
He did it when the Game Awards that one year when he had all the CEOs of the big three companies all on stage at once.
Exactly.
I'm sure he can do it again.
Exactly.
Maybe not so much with Jim Ryan, because, you know, he's been crying a lot lately.
Well, not even that. And this is the one thing I dislike about Jim. He's the corporate. Jim is the corporate guy. Jim is very much there for Sony to make sure that they're profitable, and he'll do anything he can to make sure they remain profitable going forward. What he isn't is what Sean Layden was. Sean Layden was very much a gamer. Sean Layden was somebody who respected the games and the art fully. There is at no point in time have I listened to Jim Ryan and thought, you actually care about these video games.
And we've all seen that picture of him holding a PlayStation controller. Who the hell holds a PlayStation controller like that?
That's what I'm saying, though. But like, as a leader of that platform, he's not the front-facing person that I want talking about video games, because he doesn't care about them. He cares about the bottom line, and that's fine. But that's why you put somebody else in front, like your Herman Hulst, etc. But even then, he hasn't really been that front-facing. He hasn't been your Sean Layden. He hasn't been your Corey Barlog. He hasn't been somebody who actually cares about games, talking about games. And and you've had that. Like, if you even have a look at Doug Bowser, he obviously loves games. If you have a look at Reggie, he loved games. He's got an awesome book out that people need to read as well. You have a look at Phil Spencer, clearly loves games. If you have a look at Sarah Bond, she clearly loves games, many of them. If you look at all of the kind of the other areas, what Sony need to improve is connecting back with the community. I don't think Sony actually connect with the community at all, not in a proper way. And they don't have that leader that is in place that gives a shit. He's all about the bottom line. He doesn't really care about anything other than the bottom line, and that's fine because obviously they've got a business to run. But you still need to have that front-facing PR person that does give a shit about games, talking about games. That's what I want.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And they need a bigger social media presence. They ain't really got much of a social media presence, to be honest.
Yeah, it's every now and again you'll see one. It's like they get told not to do it. Like every now and again, you'll get one person try to have nice interactive moments with somebody, and then they just disappear. It's as if they get sacked moments after. It's like, how dare you?
It's not like it is with all the Xbox team. Like you always see them interacting on social media with each other or interacting with the fans.
Yep.
That's something that Sony needs to do a lot more of. Is be a bit more social. On Twitter or whatever social media app that they decide to use, and be a little bit more vocal with their fan base.
I think the only thing stopping this year, all three of them being in the same area, is because of the acquisition, the APK acquisition. The way Sony have again, they're well within their rights, and I would expect no less to defend their company and to defend their profits. But the way that they've went on about this transaction, and they've continued to complain about the transaction in the method that they have, I can't even see Jeff being able to get them all in the same place at the same time right now.
Probably Nintendo and Xbox he could, but not so much Sony meeting with Xbox, or at least being out of place with Xbox at the same time.
Yeah.
I just don't think Sony really give a damn.
Nah. And that's the thing. You want to have all I want is for Sony to have somebody in place now, like a Sean Layden, that is the front-facing person. Fair enough if you want to have, you can have Jim Ryan in the background, pulling the strings, etc. But in terms of public communication, you need somebody that's a bit more like Sean Layden than you do Jim Ryan. You do.
Like someone that's fun on social media, a little bit like Aaron Greenberg, who interacts with the fans from time to time. Someone that's a little bit more vocal.
But
someone that actually plays games.
That's what I'm saying. Like my biggest gripe about Jim Ryan is when he's talking about games, he never seems convinced. Like he never seems convinced that he's actually really happy about this game that he's discussing. It's like the showcase we're about to announce is some of our finest work, and we're really happy to announce it and showcase it to you today. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, Jim.
He's like a cheesy used car salesman.
Yeah. Whereas at least there was a bit of oomph and a bit of passion behind the likes of Sean Layden, etc. That was like, you could see they were really enthusiastic about the games that they were creating and their developers were working on. That's really what I want. And I hope that Sony gets back to that. It's been far too long and far too quiet from Sony, and hopefully, and again, if we have a look at the last 18 months, Sony have been super quiet. Like the quietest they've ever been, to the point where the God of War release date trailer was a blog post. Like, what the fuck was that? That is not Sony. Like, when would Sony ever release the release date of a game with a blog post? When have they ever done that?
I don't know. They're acting like a wounded puppy.
This makes no sense. And then some of these statements recently, speaking on the ABK thing, some of these statements recently, which is kind of talking about how we would never survive if Call of Duty was like slightly below its everybody else. If it was slightly worse kind of in quality than anybody else, we wouldn't survive. Are you saying that none of your first party games are good enough to help to be successful for the company? because that's a bit disingenuous.
Yep. If I was working at Sony and I saw that, I'd be like, mate, you don't appreciate us enough, clearly.
Yeah.
Is that what you care about?
That's how it would come across. If I was a first party dev and he's saying, "Oh, basically none of our first party team are good enough to keep us afloat. Like the only way we're keeping afloat is because of Call of Duty." I'd be like, "What?"
I'd like to know what Neil Druckmann and Corey Barlog make of those kind of statements from Jim Ryan, because that'd be disappointing to hear if I was in their position. I'd be like, what?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Gamerboy Choice there with a $5 super chat. He says Sony has media outlets speaking to their fans, so they really do not need Sony person to do it. Look at outlets right about Sony; they are the speaker. Yeah. To be honest, they have. You are right. They've got a lot of people, and they blacklist a lot of people as well that usually disagree with how good their games are. If you speak out about a game and say it's bad, I know a lot of people that have been blacklisted. It's really poor on that end. They need to have criticisms, but again, they're almost as bad as Nintendo on that front in terms of the way they go about social media. Nintendo are good on social media, but what they're really bad with is content creators. They hate content creators, and it makes no sense because it's free advertisement. If you put anything on there that's like Nintendo related, a lot of the time, it'll either be demonetized, it'll be taken down, you'll have a copyright strike against you, you'll have a copyright claim against you. Like, they really hate content creators, and I don't know why.
It's not so much Nintendo America, it's more Nintendo Japan.
Yeah.
They're really like the old style way of
Just take it
game
down.
advertisement. And they don't like anyone streaming their content. They don't like anyone making videos about their content unless they're like curated by themselves.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just get copyright strikes or get their videos taken down.
Yep. But yeah, it's absolutely mad. I want to actually touch on something. It's a good topic actually brought up there, and thank you for reminding me because I will bring that up as well. But before we move on there, Jen, your thoughts on what Jeff can do to make this year's Summer Game Fest go hit it off? What do you think you can do to make it a success this year?
No bloody adverts.
Yeah, he's gonna have some. Let's put it that way. He's gonna have some, but
no,
we know, like over the years,
I know he's gonna have them.
Over the years, he has got better. He has got better. We have to give him that.
Him and his adverts. Don't do any of those weird ass like celebrity cameo things as well, and have The Rock come on and The Rock standing there with his can of energy drink. I don't care about The Rock's energy drink. It's not something I need to see in a gaming event.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can, I don't know, unite the big three, at least bring some stuff from all three of the big three, and eventually push towards having all the big three showing up at one point in time, at a specific point in the year, whether that be in the summer or somewhere else in the year. That's something that Jeff needs to work on. Hopefully he's the man to pull it off. He's done it before.
Yeah.
So I have faith in him there. I might not go much on a lot of what Jeff has to say, but he does a lot in the industry for events, and I have to praise him for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see that happening. I think personally, you're going to see these events being spaced out a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think gone are the days where we've got one solid week in the year where all these games are announced from all these different companies. I think that's over. We'll just get things as and when the companies are ready to show stuff off.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that with the transition to digital shows as well all the time. I think we'll always have that, and I hope Sony get back to it as well and give their fans an in-person show at some point again. But we'll always have the digital shows, and they can be any time that they're ready to showcase games. So we know Xbox now have this new Developer Direct segment, which is awesome. We know that they still go to TGS. We know that they still go to Gamescom. We know that they've got an event in June. So we kind of know the track of what they've got planned. Nintendo are a force unknown these days, as are Sony. Really, for me, what Jeff kind of needs to do is see if he can get a kind of a grip of that, get them into a relative area, even if it's a month span, and say, listen, guys, can we just block out this month where you have a showcase? It won't be this year, but next year onwards, can we have like a month block where we kind of have a showcase of some form from each of you, showcasing what's going on or what you've got planned or so on and so forth. I think that's the ultimate thing you should aim to do, is try and bring this back again, because it is far too segmented. We had, as you mentioned, at the Game Awards, he had that moment where he got all the three heads of each platform together to talk about video games. That's unheard of.
Mm-hmm. And as much as they all look awkward, but at least he got it done.
He got it done. And they celebrated, and that's what it was about, celebrating games. And that's what it needs to be about. Like, this area, this June area, needs to be about the games. It needs to be about celebrating games, showcasing games, and everybody having fun talking about video games. Not talking about transactions or buying companies or which developer's going to get bought next. None of that matters. What matters is how
our platform can't survive without Call of Duty. Oh, cry.
Yep. Yep. What matters is the games. I don't care who's buying what. I can't wait for this acquisition to be over so we can just get back to talking about video games properly. That's what it needs to be about. It always should be about. Yes. Moving swiftly on to the last little topic here. And thank you for was it Pragmatic? No, it wasn't. It was TSWS Gaming, and welcome, sir, to the show. Hope you're enjoying it. He said the PlayStation handheld rumor is insane. It is insane, and it doesn't make much sense.
Oh, is this that thing that sounds like it's just going to be a remote play thing? Like, it's very pointless.
It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. So it's an always online handheld gaming controller and second screen, so you can stream your console to it, but it's always online and needs to be on the same network. So it's not portable. It's only in your property.
I don't understand why they need this when everyone's got a mobile phone or a tablet device or a computer.
Yeah, but I don't get why you'd make, if you're going to make a streaming device, why are you making it where it's local network always online? What benefit is that? Like, if I'm going to play on the Xbox in my house, I'm going to play on the Xbox. I'm not going to play on the cloud. If I'm outside the house and I want to play my console, my games or anything, yeah, I'll play on cloud. Push comes to shove, or I'll play on some kind of handheld device. I'm not going to sit in the house downstairs playing the PlayStation when upstairs I've got the PlayStation. I'd just go upstairs to play the PlayStation on a big screen. I wouldn't play it on a hand. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. And Pat, what do you think of that weirdness?
I was going to say something, but let Pat go first.
Yeah, well, it is quite stupid, though. You know, yeah, you know, it doesn't make any sense. You know, like you said, if you have a PlayStation upstairs, you're not gonna sit downstairs with a portable where you have your less bigger screen, of course.
Yeah.
Quality-wise, maybe it's good, but I have no idea yet. But everybody wants to play with a nice looking screen and stuff. So yeah, you're mostly like gonna play on the PlayStation. Then you're gonna play on a handheld PlayStation that you cannot like even take outside.
Yeah.
Without having any network or something. So
yeah. And everyone was like, well, give us a PSP or a PlayStation Vita, like a new one of those. That would make sense. If it was a streaming device, fair enough, if you needed like 5G network or something like that, a cloud streaming device. But the fact that it's always online and local network only, it's like, why?
Yeah, that's weird though.
Why? That's the most pointless thing ever. Like, at least with the random ones that are coming out for the Xbox handhelds that aren't made by Microsoft, they're cloud streaming devices to be used outside of the house on the cloud, not to be used in the house with your console. Is like a weird second screen. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, Jen, what's your thoughts on this really awkward.
Yeah, it's mad. The only way I can see this working is if, like, the situation I imagine is wife and a husband have just had an argument and he's been kicked out of the living room while she watches EastEnders.
But the thing is, right? The thing is with always online and local area things is that when you switch it on, the way to connect it, and I've tried it as well with the PlayStation Now, which allows you to connect your PlayStation. When you switch that on, it connects to your PlayStation and it turns the PlayStation on, and it also plays that game on the PlayStation, on the screen. But so you're playing it on two screens essentially. So if you turn that on when you're in a different room, and then somebody else turns it off.
If this is a legitimate idea, I think Jim Ryan is on some serious drugs.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If it was a PSP or a Vita, fine. That makes sense to create another one of them because people love them. I've got a PSP in the background somewhere, like a white one, but like, unless it's
I would rather that. I would rather a new PSP or a Vita, to be honest. But if you're gonna do something handheld, do it properly, not just this remote play crap.
Yeah, but look, for example, this I won the Nacon MGX. It's where you can like put your phone in,
yeah,
and you can use your cloud gaming. You know, you can take it outside and stuff.
yeah.
If they made something like this, that would be much better. You know.
Yeah, exactly. If they just need a cloud gaming device, they need to be able to play on the cloud. Like, if they're going to do a handheld and it isn't cloud gaming, then it needs to be native. If it's just remote play and only on local network, and it literally requires to connect to your PlayStation, which means that you have to own a PlayStation in the first place to own one of these things, then it makes it obsolete. There is no point. Like, you could buy a handheld cloud gaming device for Xbox and not own an Xbox. That is the purpose. That is the sole purpose of these cloud gaming devices, is that you can play Xbox games anyway without owning an Xbox. You just get the subscription. With this handheld device, you have to have a PlayStation in order to use it. If you don't have a PlayStation, you cannot use it because it doesn't connect to anything. This literally only connects to the console. So it's irrelevant.
I don't know. Maybe they can watch Starfield on it if there's a YouTube app built into it.
You're getting spicy now.
It just makes no sense to me.
Oh, dear God.
How are the PS fanboys going to cap for their graphics on something like that?
It just doesn't, like I say, it doesn't make sense. The remote play has never been a thing that makes sense. When I've tried remote play, I've ended up having two screens showing the same game, playing the same footage. So it's like I may as well not be playing it on the second screen because I may as well just be sitting down and playing it on the big screen because it's going to be playing up there regardless, and I can hear it on there. Which is why I don't use remote play. It's literally just two things are playing the game at the same time.
Like, really, the only way I see it is if a couple are sitting down and say his wife wants to watch TV and he's like, okay, I'll just switch on the remote play. That's the only thing I can see it being used for. And I don't feel most people are going to do that because I think a lot of people out there have got separate rooms from their living room where they game. Like most people have got a games room, right, where they play their games.
Well, have a separate room or a TV in a different room that they can go to, or
yeah.
Like, I know Pat does. I know Pat, you and the other half, like, you've both got your own Xbox, and you've both got, like, one's in the bedroom, one's in the living room. Sorted. That's fine. And then
yeah, that's right.
And same for me. I've got a TV downstairs, but then I've got this room upstairs, and this is where my consoles are. So, like, downstairs I watch films, upstairs I play games. Like, two separate rooms entirely. That's the whole purpose of it. And even people in smaller houses, and haven't got too much space, there's a good chance you might have a TV in the bedroom and a TV in your living space. So it's 2 areas. So even then, it makes no point in having a handheld that you can only use in the house. like, what? There is no point. Like, a handheld that can only be used in the house is literally pointless. It's pointless.
And also, like TSWS is saying in the chat, like the device will probably be 250, but to use the device you need a PlayStation.
Yeah.
And nowadays the PlayStation are like almost 600 euros.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be like 8, maybe 900 euros to actually play on a handheld
Yeah.
device if you don't own a PlayStation, you know. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's insane. Yeah.
I don't know what. Like, I hope to God that the reports of it being remote play only and not having cloud functions is incorrect. I hope for their sake, because it'll just be a whole waste of money and a whole waste of
Hopefully.
R&D.
If it's just remote play, it's not going to work. Surely there has to be more to it than just remote play.
Yeah.
Maybe people have not got all the facts, the information correct just yet. I guess only time will tell. And who's to tell that this device is even going to actually see the light of day? It might get scrapped.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Jim's definitely smoking some shit. I want what he's having.
Yeah. You're telling me. Dear God. But that about wraps up the show for today. But one last thing for every new person watching this, of course, speaking of showcases, for those who are unaware of our channel and have never kind of watched us until today, thanks to the Iron Lords, of course. So shout out to them once more for bringing all you glorious people here to watch us. We create our own showcase, and our 3rd annual indie game showcase is in April, 22nd of April at 6 p.m. GMT. That's 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We have developers, games, those working for Xbox and other things going to be taking direct part of this showcase. It's a lot of work, of course. This year we've got over 70 games being showcased. We've got game giveaways. The showcase itself will be around just over 2 hours in length. Currently in production itself, of course, it's a streamed showcase. But I'll show the trailer for it at the end of this. But that is on the 22nd of April. Of course, like I say, giveaways, developers, of course, direct people working for platforms going to be part of this showcase. Content creators that you all know of or love. Mr. Cognito won't be on the first showcase, but Mr. Lord Cognito will definitely be on the second one in September. He's already lined up for that. So Lord Cognito will be taking part in the second showcase this year. He was part of it last year, which was super successful. But it's only bigger and better. We've put a lot of work into this one. The production values went way up through the skies. And for those who have watched it before, you will know that it's focused solely on the games, a lot of games. And it is very, very little talking. So the creators involved and developers that are involved maybe be on screen for no less than like a minute at a time, 2 minutes at a push. And then it's straight back into the games. So it's just back-to-back awesome games from start to finish. So we hope you enjoy that. Like I say, 70 plus games this showcase, and then another one in September. So that's 140 indie games over 2 showcases. It covers every platform. So that's Steam, Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, VR, mobile. Wherever indie developers create their games, we will showcase it. It's given them a little bit more light, and it's absolutely free for them to take part. So naturally, of course, a lot of developers are very happy to work with us because it doesn't cost them anything and it gives them free publicity. So hope you guys enjoy it when it does come. And again, we'll end the show on the trailer. But before we do, our outros for the show, General C, first and foremost, let people know where they can find you, brother, and what you've got coming up.
Yeah, you can pretty much find me everywhere at the General C. At name below my name here on StreamYard. I'll be back to streaming next week. Putting my new desk together tomorrow, as well as some cabinets for me collector's items and such. So yeah, that's pretty much my day tomorrow. Setting up a new desk, getting all prepared to stream again by the end of the week.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
And obviously, you can find me back here every Sunday and every Wednesday.
Yes. Yes, you are indeed. Indeed. So, yeah, you've got some awesome projects in the work, and I can't wait for people to see them as well. If anybody loves comics and things like that, when Jen's ready to unveil to the world his project, I'm definitely sure you're going to be loving it. He's putting a lot of hard work into his comic project, and when you all see it, it's gonna blow you away. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I wish I could show some stuff off now, but it's not the right time just yet.
Early days yet, yeah. Still a lot to go yet, but
wait for the right moment.
Yep.
Yeah, got to pick my moment with something like this. It's a lot of story I can't talk about just yet.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome though, and I know that having had the privilege to see what you're working on so far, I know it's going to be awesome and people are going to love it. If anybody's ever looked at, even for instance, another indie comic creator as Everborn Saga, and the awesome work he does, I wouldn't be surprised if it's on when you're completing it and you get that start that it's at least on that level as well, and kind of that thing, because the work he's done for that and the work you're putting into this, very much on the same level, very high quality.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated, mate.
No problem. And last but not least, Patchu. You're up and running, brand new laptop there for your content creation needs. So
yes,
all went smoothly today. It's run perfectly. There's been no issues. So it looks like you're good to go.
First of all, big shout out to the Iron Lord podcast, of course, bringing some new names in the chat. Big shout out to you guys. Thanks for stopping by. But yeah, new laptop. We have some new programs that we can use right now. We can record videos. We can do live streams on a whole different level now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'll definitely gonna be focusing more now on recording videos.
Yes.
I'm gonna do reaction videos as well, not only of gameplays, but also I'm gonna maybe try do some challenges. I'm gonna involve my girlfriend in it as well. So we're gonna have some fun on the channel. So
nice.
Yeah, and we need to set it up and stuff. So we're gonna see. I'm just trying to do some dumb and funny stuff also.
Awesome.
But and also thanks to you, Dutch, for all the information, all the explanation that you gave me how things work and stuff. So yeah, thanks for that.
Anytime. Any support you need to get everything up and running, you know where I am.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, what I have coming up, maybe some streams. Gonna play some Call of Duty, of course. Almost max level, by the way, 450.
Damn.
Right now doing the platinum challenges, so I try to get some weapons on platinum.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been crazy. Been playing with another controller right now. I've been playing with the Nacon Pro compact controller, and it feels really good. So yeah,
awesome stuff. And again, massive shout out to everybody who's tuned in today, and of course, again, thank you to the Iron Lords for bringing across you awesome gents into the chat there. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Of course, we have our main show every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. Eastern. So for those of you who want to tune into that, that's our main show every week. That's usually where we get kind of guests on and things like that. Sundays, rarely we do get guests, sometimes developers, etc. But of course, we are aware that the Iron Lords are on pretty much the same time as us, if not just beforehand. So we're aware of your awesome community. Don't worry. I know it's hard to compete against that, but super appreciate you all tuning in. And again, thanks to the Iron Lords for that. But for me, I am gameplay-wise, you might not see as many gameplay streams recently. You will see the podcast as usual every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday. But for the next couple of weeks, I'm working hard on making sure the showcase is as high quality as physically possible for you all to enjoy. So, of course, to play out at the end of the show.
Can't wait for that showcase.
Yes.
Really looking forward to seeing it.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to showing it you all, because it's I've done a lot of awesome stuff through it this year, and got a lot of awesome people involved. So, yes, to play out at the end of this show, I'm going to drop it straight onto the Community Indie Showcase 2023 trailer. Thank you again for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you all again next time. Have a good night.
Living every day in your head for free. You can tap away, but I will not hear you scream. You can break the keys, spread your toxicity, your world outside reality. In your room, a little hideaway, but you let it through. Enough to go insane, living in the dark hasn't treated you well. You're building your own prison cell. Hey, wait, don't waste it on me. Spy, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Did I brush you off? Is it your lack of friends? We never met, even if you pretend. Am I in your debt? I don't owe you nothing. Don't say something you'll regret. Hey, wait, don't waste it on me. Spy, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Hate, rage.